We are live for the live TWIS Halloween TWISoween broadcast. This program of This Week in Science, this science podcast, we record our recording of the broadcast while we stream. So if you're live, you're catching all the glory. And we will edit some stuff out later for the podcast. So this is it, everybody. You're here. You're with us. And we are so glad you are. Because it's go time. Is it time, friends?
It's go time.
Might be go time.
Might be go time. Beginning in 3, 2. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 848, recorded on Wednesday, October 27th, 2021. Is this spoopy science? Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight, we will fill your head with brains, disguises, and mummies. Uh-oh, but first...
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. There are werewolves around here. There are werewolves around here. And they're waiting for the moon to appear. There are witches in the woods. There are witches in the woods. And I don't know what they're brewing, but I hear it's very good. There are vampires in this town. There are vampires in this town. And they're waiting for the sun to go down. There are mummies singing songs. There are mummies singing songs. And I don't know what they're singing, but the black cat sings along. There's a horseman without a neck. There's a horseman without a neck. And he seems to be mumbling. This Week in Science is coming up next. It's the cue to the music. Was that it? Was that the musical intro for the song? Or for the show?
The lack of music is spooky.
It seems we've already lost one of the hosts tonight. Who will be next? I hope it's Blair. Who will be next? I hope it's not me anyway.
I've got the kind of mind that can't get enough. I wanna learn everything. I wanna fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I wanna know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Arr, good science to ya, Kiki and Blair.
And a good science to you too. Like, oh my God. We're going to go have a bunch of science. Let's get it, everyone. It's TWIS-o-ween. And we are so glad that you are joining us for another episode of This Week in Science. Blair's back from her
Looks like a
Hawaiian
vacation. Yeah.
Am I back? Or did I leave myself behind?
I think you have brought your vacation home with you, judging by your Hawaiian shirt, shade hat, bleached blonde hair, zinc-covered nose, and very large sunglasses.
Yeah, I mean, sun protection's important, you know?
But just on the nose, apparently.
Just on the nose.
Just on the nose.
I mean, that's a bit on the nose for heading out on a vacation. Anyway, yeah, Justin's brought a bit of the pirate flavor.
If I'm for further away, or maybe I needed a hat. From here, it just looks like I'm wearing like a fancy lounge jacket. but it's piratey.
It's a piratey lounge coat. It's for the pirate lounge. After you're done at a hard day at sea, you head into the pirate lounge. Yeah, I've brought a momentary tank girl
Yeah.
inspired.
Always welcome.
Yeah, my pink wig, my shiny shades, and a little pink furry vest because you gotta have fun outdoors. All right, everyone, now for the science. Okay, what do we have on the show tonight? I have no aliens, I have no neutrinos, and brains. Because maybe I'm zombie tank girl. Could be. Justin, what'd you bring?
I have got mummies and lots of other ancient people stories. It's
Fantastic.
all mysteries of the ancient peoples being revealed tonight.
I love
All of
it.
them.
You are I don't know, digging up the treasure of the long dead past on the show.
There
Sounds
you
like
go.
sounds about
There you
right
go.
for a pirate. All right, come on. All right, hula girl, what is in the animal corner?
Oh, I brought rabbits in disguise. I brought hippos because I gotta bring hippos when they're in the science news. And then
Yes.
I also brought kissing prairie dogs.
Oh, that just sounds very
Prairie
sweet.
dogs.
Yes.
I can't wait. I love prairie dogs. All right, everyone. If you are in, you're in. But, if you haven't quite jumped in yet, you can subscribe to This Week in Science. Look for us all places that science podcasts are found. This Week in Science is what we're called. You can find us also on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, all over the place. Some places we're TWIS, others TWIS Science. But you can always go to our website, twis.org. All right. Time to dive in to this big witch's brew of scientific information. All right, I'm going to start it off with aliens. There was a signal from far away that we thought could possibly be intelligent life elsewhere. in
First
the
contact!
universe.
We finally did it! Oh my gosh, what does this mean? Is this a great day for humanity, or is this the horror of knowing that there's others out there who might come soon and invade us?
Stop. Okay, so breakthrough listen, part of SETI, and anyway, a bunch of researchers had thought maybe they did find something out of Proxima Centauri, which is far away, but it's one of our closest neighbors, actually.
Close enough, yeah.
Close enough, and it does have what we think could be life holding planets around its star. So we thought maybe, just maybe, but then the analysis went in and the researchers are like, let's go check everything again and see what happened. And basically it's radio interference.
Wait, what?
We're listening to ourselves again.
Sure.
Ah! What gave it away?
Well,
Was it
that's
was
the
it we
thing, is that
finally deciphered the transmission, and it's like, well, all right, folks, be careful out there. There's going to be a lot of traffic on the 10 and on the 405 and on the 101, so stay off the freeways if you can. Like, was it just...
So the researchers who have published in Nature Astronomy, they say, that they really thought if you had detection of a signal that had a particular signature frequency change that only showed up when you were pointed at the source of the signal, then that's something that's pointed at you, right? So this is a special signal. That's it. But they have realized that isn't really the way it worked. So they had to go and peek at it a lot more, and it does really just turn out. They used machine learning algorithms to figure out that it was interfering equipment, and they were able to determine that it's us. That's it.
Has anybody else noticed
Sorry,
that whenever...
no aliens for Halloween this year.
Has anybody else noticed that we always get the signal when Jan is making popcorn in the microwave? Because it seems like there's a little bit of a correlation there. I don't know if anybody else has noticed.
Yeah,
that,
the researchers say the frequency of the signal drifts in a way that is consistent with inexpensive crystal oscillators such as those commonly used in computers, phones, and radios.
Kind of stuff you'd find all over a research lab.
Well,
Yeah.
wasn't one of the very first times we thought we got a signal from aliens? It was pigeons.
Right.
No. So
There's
what that
one.
No, there's what you're talking about is actually the discovery of the microwave background radiation, which the researchers the researchers thought that the signal was interference, and so they went up on the roof with shotguns and cleared out pigeons. And cleared out pigeons and got rid of all, and then they still got the signal, but they didn't know what they had. There was another lab that was actively looking for the background radiation that couldn't find it, and here they just were like, hey, we got this signal. And then somebody some more learned researcher, I think, in the department went, I think I know what you guys got, and you need to publish right away. Right away. Because it's big.
It's big, but this is not big. It's not aliens, but at least we're learning more about how we interfere with our search for aliens, which will allow us to pinpoint that potential signal in the future that we've been waiting for. Yeah. Tell me a story.
Or not
Justin.
waiting for. I'm stuck.
Do we really want to?
I'm very much on the fence because, the history of at least humans going someplace where they have a technological advantage over other humans has literally never ended well for the people who are being visited.
I don't know. At some point, maybe we're just going to get like the spam calls from an alien civilization.
Oh, you think? Oh gosh, an entire planet of scam marketers.
Yeah.
Oh no, that would not be okay.
Justin, what do you have?
What do I have? Oh, so this is kind of an interesting story. Part of the Silk Road. This is an area geographically intersecting Eastern and Western cultures. It runs from all the way through the Western Asia to Eastern Europe, and was for many 1,000 years plus a trade route through which all sorts of disparate cultures and peoples, agriculture, language. There was a great deal of our language, common words within languages that were formed there. It's one of the reasons we have very similar words for things like water and different kinds of food. They're shared amongst languages throughout much of the world, because these were very important things to be able to get across. Like, my horse needs water, my camel needs water, I need something to eat. So it's this very storied area of the Silk Road, right? So back in the 90s, they discovered hundreds of naturally mummified human remains that are about 4,000 years old, in the region of Tarim Basin. And so there was this sort of interesting, a lot of speculation around who these people were. They were thought these mummies had very Western physical appearances. They had slightly different types of clothing. There was felted wooden woven clothing. They had cattle and sheep, goat, wheat, barley, millet. They had cheese. They had stuff that seemed out of place, although over time they discovered actually those were pretty common in the area. They were less uncommon than had originally been thought. But they were buried in boat coffins in the middle of a desert. Also, a sort of an interesting twist. Why do these people have boats in the middle of a desert? Why would they bother bringing their boats with them? So these the Tarim Basin mummies have been a long enigmatic mystery. And so eventually, there's all these ideas. They thought they might be descendants of there's this known group of Yamnaya herders who moved around. There's a Bronze Age society of the Black Sea region to southern Russia. It could be them. It could be some Central Asian culture that was traveling there. But nobody really knew. I mean, even groups as far down as the Iranian plateau were rumored to have been responsible for being these people. And then something got invented and finally got applied, which is they did some DNA testing. Oh, thank goodness for the DNA testing. Because with all the myriad of theories about who these people could be, the DNA analysis has come back with some very interesting results. They took this is a lot of universities. This is Gillen University Institute of Vibrate Paleontology and Paleoanthropology, Max Planck Institute of Evolutionary Anthropology, Seoul National University, Korea, Harvard University. Lots of big brainy people got involved in doing the analysis, and they took some of the oldest mummies in the area, and they took a bunch of the even older remains from some of the surrounding neighboring basins and cultures. And they found, to their surprise, the Tarim Basin mummies were not related to any of the ancient neighbors. In fact, they don't have any admixture with the peoples that had populated the region of that time. They don't seem to have mated outside of their group. They're saying this is a very isolated population because it's rather uncommon for a group that persisted for maybe 1,000 years, or at least many hundreds of years in the region, to have had no admixture, at least in the oldest mummies that they analyzed. They did come back as being most closely related to what is known as the ancient North Eurasians. This is a group that is thought to have been sort of widespread, but they only have a few really good examples. One is from a 24,000-year-old boy that was discovered in Siberia. The population on the planet that has the greatest relationship, the highest known proportions of shared DNA with these 4,000-year-old people, mummies along the Silk Road near Uyghur territory? Native Americans have a 40% hit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. All right. So what does that tell us?
Well,
Right?
so it means that humans started in North America and migrated to
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
well, it actually could. It could mean that this is a population that made it all the way to the Americas and
then
came all the way
Then
back.
died. Oh.
And came all the way back. Because you're only talking 4,000 years ago now. And now we know
Yeah.
native North Americans going back 24, 30,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that they traveled from one continent to the next and throughout that continent, and nobody ever went back. Nobody ever went the other direction. So that's a possibility. Another possibility is this is an isolated group that was connected to the first North Americans. The problem with that, though, if you think about it, is this is only 4,000 years ago. This is only 4,000 years ago. Whereas the oldest member of this group that has been found to be solidly of this group of isolate is 24,000 years in Siberia, which sort of matches that from Siberia over to Alaska and down. But at 4,000 years ago, with 30,000 years of history in North America, there's a great chance that this group traveled the other way, and it would explain having boats. It's hard to explain a group that comes from Siberia down into the Silk Road who bothered to bring boats with them, unless they were a people who had traveled some vast distances with their boats, and no matter where they are, they're still need to bring they're going to bring those boats with them because they
You're
need
going to come against water again at some point.
Eventually. Yeah.
or to eventually go home, or eventually to head back again. The boat needs to be important to you, even if you're in the desert. If you need to connect, if you're thinking maybe one day I'm going to catch that connecting.
Was
flight
it a
home.
desert when they all died?
So at 4,000 years ago, they have still a pretty decent idea of that it was still kind of a desert territory.
Okay.
The Silk Road was, except for all the humans, traveling could be disparately, it could be have sort of all sorts of disparate climate along that road. But for the most part, and certainly where they were in the desert.
Wow.
And if you look at that boat, it's kind of a carved out canoe looking thing.
Like a canoe, they're portaging.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use your boat to carry a bunch of your stuff, and you're multi-purpose.
So the next thing I want to know
Interesting.
is
What's next?
So one of the other things is well, there's also something that they found some cultural evidence that there was a belief that there was a dog guarding the afterlife, which
Cerberus?
is something that goes into Native American territories, but it is also something that happens in Norse mythology to an extent.
Yeah.
And one of the mutations they found in one of these, what are they called again? The ancient North people, whatever, is one of the first mutations for blonde hair. So this is a group also, right? That's in the more ancient. This could be a group that disparately went up into Siberia and then traveled along a sort of northern band. The one thing that's missing from this that I'd love to find out is if there's any evidence that they had dogs with them.
4,000 years ago, they might have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why not? They would have helped.
Something to pull the boats. So what? Something, because there's something to pull those dang boats. Because otherwise, like that's a lot of
You
a lot
just
of work.
row through the sand.
That doesn't work very well. It's just not going to work very well, Blair.
But an extremely surprising find. Not something that when they went looking to reconstruct the origin of the Tarim Basin mummies, they had no idea that their biggest hit was going to be North America.
That's fascinating. It really makes you think about the movement of humanity, where people have gone. Yeah. Yeah. Super cool. Thanks for that story. Mummies! Perfectly in tune. All right, Blair.
Yes.
You've got a costume. You've got rabbits with costumes?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
tell me a story.
Snowshoe hares. Talk to you about snowshoe hares. A team of researchers from multiple institutions throughout Canada have been looking at snowshoe hares because they are an animal that changes their costume with the seasons. So during the warm months, they're brown and dark, which helps them blend in. But as autumn passes, the dark fur falls out. It is replaced with white fur, which allows them to blend in with snowy backgrounds. Snowshoe hares are one of the classic examples of this. There's also Arctic foxes that do this and some other animals as well. But the big problem that these animals that have seasonal changes in their fur would have is climate change because depending on whatever signal they're using to change the color of their fur, that climate change might be causing problems. And so previous research with snowshoe hares has found that at least for them, it's tied to the amount of daylight, not the temperature outside. So they're going to change to white whether or not the temperature has changed enough to start snowing. It's all about their circadian rhythms.
Oh, that's going to end badly then.
You would think. However, how's this for some good news? Or what was it?
Good. I'm so glad somebody brought good news.
There we go. So they're actually doing great. For the first few weeks of winter, they are standing out starkly against the dark snowless backgrounds. They have these bright white coats. You would expect that they would be snatched up and eaten immediately. However, they tracked 347 hares using accelerometers as they progressed through seasons from 2015 through 2018, and they found that the mortality risk for hares during the autumn months actually was reduced by 86.5%.
What?
Why? Most likely it is because they foraged less because they had a warm coat on and therefore didn't have to burn as many calories keeping warm. So they were actually exposed less.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they found from these accelerometers they were foraging between 17 and 77 minutes less daily during the autumn changeover. So that means that hour less exposure every day is enough to reduce how easy it is to get eaten.
Yeah, less owl-fox exposure kind of thing going on.
Absolutely. Yes. So their metabolism rates were lower because they were wearing their warm coats. So this is interesting for a couple reasons. So one being that like evolution usually has a pretty good handle on this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
If it would be better to have a thicker coat, more important than to be camouflaged, you would think this would have shook itself out by now. However, this weird fluke of rapid climate change has exposed this odd strategy that we have not yet seen. And therefore, this might actually push evolution in a really interesting direction in response to climate change.
Well, that really is just good news. You know what occurs to me, though? What about all the things? They're getting predated on less. What about all the animals that rely on preying on them?
Good question. So if it's something like an Arctic fox where they also are going through the same thing, perhaps it doesn't matter.
Because
Perhaps
there's
they
a
don't
larger
need as much.
Arctic fox population. There's a larger rabbit population, hare population.
Arctic foxes don't need as many calories because they have
Right.
the thick fur. So yes, so there's all this weird
Maybe it all balances
possibility that it could potentially balance out. That is assuming that other animals that predate upon them have similar advantages. I don't know for sure what the cue is for all of the predators in the area, if they are related to daylight or if it's temperature, because that's not unique, or that's not universal, I should say. So
Yeah, I think with a
there's a lot of
carnivore,
weird
we
things.
got that. I don't know. I have a feeling if there's less of them getting eaten, hopefully there'll just be more of them, so the foxes and the owls and the what have yous have a chance. Because if they're just staying in the burrow all day, and the poor little
They're not
foxes
staying in the
look
burrow,
wandering around
though.
looking
They
looking
don't have
for
to stay in the
food.
burrow. They can get out.
Just worried about the foxes.
Yeah,
and
well,
the
I
owls.
mean, keep in mind, rabbits live like 2 to 6 years, so it all shakes out. It's
But
fine.
they
Okay.
multiply like
Rabbit.
rabbits.
Rabbits?
Yeah.
It all shakes out in the wash. And
nature
we'll
figures it
see. I
out.
think the interesting thing is to see how this moves forward with climate change and changing temperature zones, changing habitable zones, and
Yeah.
rabbits
and
can
it's-
move, but how far can they move, and what will they need to do?
Yeah, and I think on the whole, we're looking at a mass extinction event. We know that.
Yeah,
But there are situations.
that's scary. Talk about
where-
Halloween.
Yeah, I know. There are situations where there's going to be weird, new, and extreme evolutionary pressure.
Yeah.
So there are weird adaptive radiations that we will see as a result of climate change. It's not going to balance out the bad
People
stuff, but it's still,
wearing
we'll
more
see some interesting
gloves.
stuff. Yeah.
It's gonna
Dyeing
be
their
really
hair
interesting.
pink.
Yeah. Very cool. Let's see. How TWIS-o-ween. I've got a big bowl of candy for all the physicists, but you know what? I'm gonna give them a box of raisins or an apple because there's
That's a
no
good thing.
sterile neutrinos, according to
Ah.
the microboon experiment here in the United States at the Department of Energy's Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory. No sterile neutrino candies for the physicists.
Well, no sterile neutrinos. Well, no wonder there's so dang many of them.
I know. So there are 3 neutrinos that are known according to the standard model, and they switch between their different flavors all the time. But there was evidence from another experiment called the mini boon experiment, an energy signature that hinted at what researchers thought could be a 4th neutrino, which they were calling the sterile neutrino. And if it were real, it would mean not standard model, not standard physics.
Dun,
It would-
dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun.
So the physicists went back to the drawing board. They made a bigger, not a mini boon. It's a micro boon, but it's a bigger experiment. So anyway, it's this experiment was meant to test using liquid argon time projection chamber to be able to really see how these neutrinos, which usually are neutral and they don't really interact with anything, yet we think they might be involved in like why there's more regular matter in the universe than antimatter in the universe. So we think they're really important, but they tend to just pass right through stuff and they don't interact with anything very well. But these liquid argon TPC chambers, this experiment could have just really figured it out. And so they got a whole bunch of data out of this over the last few years. And it took them a long time to crunch all the numbers. And finally, the data is out. And that's it. 3 kinds of neutrinos: the electron, the muon, the tau. No sterile. I'm sorry. No extra candy for TWIS-o-ween, physicists. It's standard model or bust at this point.
Now go back and think about what you did.
Well, okay, to be fair, every time when they got that signal originally, it did correlate
They thought it was
to
pigeons. Oh.
Janet making popcorn in the micro.
Yeah.
Would you stop with the popcorn running when we're doing the experiments?
I mean, you plug it in and you unplug it and you plug it in and you unplug it. It's kind of fun messing with the physicists.
Yeah. So I guess what was it? What was the thing that was in the original experiment that ended up just being loose photons or something? So that's the what they're seeing now is that these are photons, and this 170-ton neutrino detector has just it's gone against the original evidence from 2010 that had that anomaly, that they thought it could be photons, but it could also be something else really cool, and they had to test it out and see, right? You got to check all the possibilities. And this low energy excess is what they call it. It's not sterile neutrinos, and the researchers who are involved in publishing this work, they say, yep, now we know that it's photons. That's it. Not electrons. Yeah. But the researchers are still very excited because we've moved science forward. You disfavor a hypothesis, you go, oh, that hypothesis is not right. Now we know a little bit more about the universe. We can figure things out some more. Yeah, except then they found out that you're going to give them raisins. Nobody wants raisins.
Come to my house for
nobody likes
TWIS-o-ween.
raisins.
I'm going to give you apples and raisins, not even caramel apples that you can lose your
fine.
teeth in.
An apple's okay, but a raisin?
Raisins.
Not a fan.
Not a fan at all. Tell me what you are a fan of. Do you have another story?
Oh, what am I a fan of? A fan of 1876. That's when the U.S. military waged a preemptive strike on Native Americans in South Dakota on land that had actually been ceded to the Native peoples for hunting and foraging on all that kind of stuff. One of these, there was a reservation, but then there was all this other land that was like, here, this is yours to go hunt in. So yeah, there was the Battle of Greasy Grass, which is alongside Yellowstone, the Bighorn River. It pitted Major General Custer's 7th Cavalry Regiment against a gathering of the Lakota, Northern Cheyenne, and Arapaho tribes that were led by Crazy Horse and Sitting Bull. Now, they had gotten together to sort of discuss some land management stuff, what to do with the new hunting grounds, how to, sort of a multi-tribe get together to talk about stuff. When the 7th Cavalry, with the element of surprise, sent troops down to start firing on the village unannounced. Little did they know that they weren't just attacking one small village, but a gathering of tribes. They were quickly outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. Most of the 7th Cavalry, including Custer, died that day. The battle, I think, they say it lasted as long as it takes a hungry man to eat his dinner, is how it was described by one. So more than half of the... It was pretty
quick.
It was pretty quick. There was initial flurry, and then the battle against Custer was over pretty fast. Half the 7th Cavalry was killed, the rest fled. And when the battle was won by the native peoples, and the larger war eventually would be lost, Sitting Bull was there, of course, as one of the leaders. He went on to have a very storied life and was eventually assassinated in 1890 by the U.S. government. A man claiming to be the great-grandson of Sitting Bull has been asking for his remains to be moved to a different ancestral land, saying he's not Lakota, so he wasn't from the South Dakotas, he was from a different area, according to the family oral history story. So, moving the remains of legendary figure is not something that is easily accomplished. For starters, there are actually 2 burial sites officially listed for Sitting Bull. One at Fort Yates, North Dakota, and another at Moorbridge, South Dakota. It is considered unlikely that he is buried both places. Secondly, are the man, Ernie LaPointe, and his 3 sisters actually the great-grandchildren of Sitting Bull? That has to get determined too. So a lock of hair from Sitting Bull had sat in the Smithsonian Museum for almost 100 years. It was returned in 2007. And the story about this caught the eye of a Danish researcher who's been mentioned many times on the show, Professor Aske Willerslev. Quoting here, "Sitting Bull has always been my hero ever since I was a boy. I admire his courage and his drive. That's why I almost choked on my coffee when I read in a magazine in 2007 that the Smithsonian Museum has decided to return Sitting Bull's hair to Ernie LaPointe and his 3 sisters in accordance with a new U.S. legislation that was giving back stuff that was in museums that didn't belong to them." He added, "I wrote to LaPointe and explained that I specialize in the analysis of ancient DNA, that I was an admirer of Sitting Bull, and that I considered a great honor if I could be allowed to compare the DNA of Ernie and his sisters with the DNA of the Native American leader's hair when it was returned to them." It ended up taking 14 years to find a way of extracting any usable DNA from this, this lock of Sitting Bull's hair. And they had to actually wait for new techniques to come around, as well as develop new techniques to be able to get the DNA and to do the analysis. And the results, just like most people who imagine they are related to somebody famous through family oral history and birth certificates, they were 100% correct. Ernie LaPointe and his sisters are the grandchildren of Sitting Bull. The new technique that was developed here could actually be used for old DNA that might previously have been considered too degraded to analyze. Anything from analyzing ancient historical site burials to modern forensic identification of maybe cold cases or a found body that has been there for seemingly too long. And this whole thing this hair, by the way, had been sitting in the museum, like on a shelf or something like this, room temperature for almost 100 years.
Wow.
So this is not
Was it on a shelf or, I mean, very often in the Smithsonian, they've got things at least preserved behind UV tempered glass so that it's going to be blocking at least the degrading rays of the sun. You're indoors where probably not getting a lot of light anyway. So,
but if you were preserving something like this with the intent of doing a DNA analysis,
right,
you'd just frozen it, right? Or that way, you've sealed it, froze it, and not touched it.
Right,
they didn't
and
have
Smithsonian room temperature is probably lower than like the standard male likes the office temperature to be, or
Wow, that's very specific. Somebody having problems with the workplace thermostat?
Nope.
Okay. But it could be used for a lot of things. So the next step is they actually think they can use this technique on the 2 burial sites, the 2 presumed burial sites, to determine where Sitting Bull is actually buried, so that he can be returned to the proper ancestral ground, because Sitting Bull was a massive traveler. He even took his tribe up to Canada at one point, always refused to sell land or negotiate with the U.S. government. This research, interestingly, was funded by the Danish National Research Foundation, funding research in the Americas that the U.S. government is not interested in learning more about, apparently.
It's all the stories you want to tell, right? The stories are told by the people with the funding.
Yep.
Good. I'm glad this story is getting told, though. It's fascinating. This kind of historical work is always very interesting. Speaking of history, I've got big fangs. Big fangs. But not really fangs, maybe. More like very long teeth. They're tusks. So not really fangs at all, more just tusks. I've got tusks.
You're really walking back your headline.
I know. I'm sorry. Sorry, not sorry. Researchers have just published in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B, on their work to trace back to the progenitor of tusks. Where the heck did tusks come from? There are many mammals with tusks. Blair, can you name some animals with tusks?
Walrus, hippo,
Yes.
elephant,
Yes.
Hippo?
Babarusa,
Wait, back up. A boar? Wild boar?
boar.
But a hippo has
That makes
tusks? I
sense.
thought they just have big teeth.
No,
Huh?
it's ivory.
Oh, no.
Hyraxes, warthogs.
Oh yes, hyraxes, little elephants.
Warthogs?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So,
Huh.
what exactly is a tusk anyway? These researchers realized as they were trying to figure out where tusks came from that they're actually considering a tusk has been fairly ambiguous in the animal world for a long time. And it's just kind of like these extra long teeth, and sometimes it's a tusk and other times. So they defined a tusk or tusks. They have decided that it has to grow throughout an animal's entire life. So it can't like grow and then stop. It has to continually grow. And the surface is made of dentine rather than having a hard enamel like our teeth. Our teeth, they begin as dentine, but then they get an enamel coating. And so that does not happen with tusks. And so when they made this distinction, they were able to weed out a bunch of animals from the tusky corners of the phylogeny, so they could figure out who have tusks, who don't have tusks. Rodents don't have tusks; they just have very long teeth, for instance. And they have determined that going back about 270 to 201 million years ago, the dicynodonts are the ancestors of the tusk in mammals. These are the first organisms that got tusks. Dicynodonts were kind of mammally, kind of reptilian. They were they were a little before or right around the dinosaur age, and they were creatures that didn't all get tusks. In fact, it was kind of convergent evolution throughout the dicynodont family.
Oh, they're cute. I'm looking at photos. They're very cute.
Our current understanding of what they would have looked like, they've got big fangs. I mean, tusks come out of their little roundy faces. Yeah.
Oh,
but if you look
adorable.
up fanged dicynodonts, these were where tusks came from. And now we have a true definition of tusks, and we can understand a bit more about the evolution of teeth and where tusks came from and the ecological factors that would have led to the development of toothy appendages. So you're going to have a need to use these teeth very regularly. Hence, they keep growing throughout life. They don't have that hard enamel shell like elephants. They use their tusks as tools. And there is a little crossover between this study and the study, another study that came out this week that found that there is a group of elephants that have lost their tusks due to evolutionary pressure. This group of elephants was hunted down to very, very small percentage of its original population. And naturally, there was 6 to 7% of the population that was born without tusks. But after the population went through this bottleneck, it created a real issue. And so now you have a whole bunch of elephants in the population who don't have tusks. Now, this happened in Mozambique, and researchers looking into the tusks of elephants determined that it is a genetic issue that is dominant and recessive. So, what's happening is when females have this dominant gene, they end up tuskless. However, the recessive part of it is if males end up with the other gene, then they die. So it is linked to male lethality.
Oh, gosh.
Tusklessness leads to male death and female survival, just no tusks. And they tied it to a couple of genes that are related to enamel production and also dentin. So these are very interesting things to be looking at, specifically in the here and now, as we're watching adaptation and evolution take place in response to environmental pressures like the hunting and killing of these elephants, leading back to where tusks originated and why in the first place, and how the genes have been involved in this tooth formation versus tusk formation for so long, over 200 million years. Yeah. Dicynodonts with tusks to now elephants without.
I'm obsessed. I'm going to keep this page of Dicynodont pictures open forever. Just look at it when I'm bummed.
Just look at the cute little Dicynodonts.
It looks like a mixture between a hippo, a naked mole rat, and a triceratops.
Yeah, it's got a very triceratopsy kind of face.
Yeah. Oh, they're cute. This story is getting a little long in the tooth, though. So,
oh my goodness.
This is This Week in Science. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for another episode of Science Fun on this TWIS-o-ween episode. We do hope that if you are enjoying the show, that you will share it with one of your friends. Additionally, we hope that you will head over to TWIS.org and click on the calendar. Blair's Animal Corner 2022 calendar is now available at TWIS.org. Get your calendar. Plan for 2022 today. All right. We're going to come back for a very, 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 very quick COVID update, because this is the one piece of news that has me excited this week. The FDA panel that has been looking at the 5 to 11 Pfizer vaccine dosage safety has recommended that it be allowed and authorized for children in the United States.
We just need CDC then, right? That's all we need?
Yep. Yeah, so we're waiting on the CDC, and the states are currently, the White House is working on getting doses out to the states. The states are working, hopefully. I mean, this happens all the time. I'm like, please, actually, system be working.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be doing the work to get the supplies where they're needed at this moment in time. So I'm really hoping that's happening. A big question that I've seen people ask, and I know people, there was a New York Times article about this as well. If your child is 11, going on 12, it is better to get your child vaccinated now than to wait until they turn 12. If you're worried about the third of a dose, 5 to 11-year-old dosage versus the full dose, 12 and up dosage, something is better than nothing. It seems as though the antibody titers that they're getting in the age group are great. And so having immune protection is going to be better, especially coming into the holidays, than not having it.
Yeah, I don't regret getting the J&J vaccine for 1 second, because I got what I could when I could, and I was protected sooner.
Yeah. And now you can mix and match. You can get another J&J.
I made my appointment. I'm going to get a Pfizer next week.
What are you getting? A Pfizer? Moderna's the good one. That's you're in the wrong team.
They're all good.
It's the better one, though. As long as now you can pick and choose.
I picked the one. I picked the mRNA I could get soonest. Is what I picked.
Yeah. No, good choice. But I was kind of joking about this last week, but there's been like enough of a I don't know. It's just negative press or less positive long-term resulty stuff. Where I wonder how many people are going to go back for a second J&J.
I mean, we ran into people on our honeymoon that were saying they were going to go back for the J&J.
Okay.
Round 2.
And the side effects still are rare. We hear about them because the media loves sensationalism. And the effectiveness of the J&J added, the second J&J dose added to the first, brings it up to the effectiveness of the initial Pfizer dosages. So it's basically like, oh, you had your 2 shots just spread out over a very long time. The effectiveness does increase to about 96%, which is amazing. So, but the FDA in the United States has also said, mix and match if you would like. So if you are concerned about side effects, you have more choices at this point in time.
Give me that mRNA.
Which is great.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, I'm like, I had the mRNA and I'm like, well, maybe I should get a J&J. Maybe that's the one I'm going to go for next, just to have the
just
full...
walking down the vaccine buffet line. Oh, yes, a little bit of that. Oh, yes, a little bit of that.
Take one of those. Yeah. Oh, it'll be so good. Okay. Well, on that note, if anyone does have questions about the vaccines, about COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, please let us know, or do definitely check the CC website for information. It is time now for that time of the show that we love, that we missed so much over the last couple of weeks, but that's back now. Hula Girl Hang Time! Oh, wait, what? No, that's not the... what? No, oh, sorry. It's time for Blair's Animal Corner.
With Blair!
She loves our creatures, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. You want to hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels.
What you got, Blair?
Did I get it? Did I get it all? There we go. Okay.
What? You trying to take that zinc off? Don't you
No,
dare.
I'm putting more on.
Okay, good. Cover it up.
Anyway, let's talk about hippos, shall we?
Yes, please.
So I took my sunglasses off so I could do this science for real. So hippos, just the gift that keeps on giving. So I want to talk about renowned zoologist, Cambridge University professor Richard Laws. He sadly died in 2014, but his friend David Walton, a scientist at the British Antarctic Society, or British Antarctic Survey, excuse me, got a hold of Richard Laws's studies. He had a scientific legacy from 60 years of hippo research. From Antarctica, no hippos there, but all the way up to African savanna. So he studied a lot of animals, but he had specifically a huge stack of notebooks about hippos. Notebooks, maps, scientific data, all sorts of amazing stuff. He had rare and detailed measurements of almost 3,000 hippos collected from 1961 to 1966 in Uganda, and all of them were neatly recorded and categorized. And so this research was going to be tossed, but instead it was handed off to a group of hippo researchers, because this was the perfect opportunity to look at hippo body size. Now, let me tell you about hippo body size. They're unusual. Why do you think they're unusual? Either of you? Any guesses? What's unusual about a hippo body?
They have a very large mouth.
They do
They're,
have a large mouth.
And
they're,
a very small tail.
that
Yes.
spins when they go poop.
Yes, that sprays poop everywhere. Very
Yes.
good. But what's really interesting about them is that the males are so small.
Oh.
Even though hippos can weigh 6,000 pounds,
Wow.
the males are small. That's because, according to other size ratios of male to female size differences in other animals that are similar, that are one male with a large harem of females, that are semi-aquatic. All these things will lead you to believe that these animals, the males, should be huge compared to the females. Polar bears, males can weigh 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. Females are only about 500. For elephant seals, they can weigh way more than females, around 6 times larger than females. So there's all sorts of kind of size disparity between males and females in these other examples.
And I guess in part of that, the one of the reasons that the males are so big is they have to fight other males for their harem, so they're constantly having to defend themselves. So the bigger you are, usually the better you are at surviving and having more offspring, because you can fight off the other males better if you're bigger.
So you're half right.
Usually.
So it's a
I don't know what about the hippo. But...
No. So the reason that you're half right is that it has to do with fighting other males for dominance. But the kind of key there is that when animals are sizing each other up to fight, they do something called antagonizing behavior. So they'll like, hey, sup. Okay. Oh yeah, that's pretty intimidating. Okay, great. Hey, check out my giant rack of antlers. See how big they are? I could really mess you up. Or yours are that big too. Hey, I can make big sounds. Can you make big sounds? Oh, that's pretty similar to. See how big I am? I'm going to turn to the side so you can see how big I am. See how big I am? That's right. Run away. So that's usually. So
some of they resolve a lot of the conflicts without actually having to fight to the death, because either one is good at bluffing because they have more confidence, or one is very self-aware and is like, ooh, that one's actually bigger than me. I know I can't take it. I don't want to try.
Yes. If males in these scenarios did not cut bait some of the time, the population would be halved constantly, right?
They would hurt themselves. They would die. Yeah, it would be no good.
And you would never get big enough to win. Because ultimately, you have younger males fighting older established males. And the younger males will eventually go, oh, I'm not going to win this one. And they'll leave so that they can then grow larger to then win later, right? So this is key to competition within a species, is you have to be able to have these antagonizing behaviors. You have to be able to size each other up and not always end in actual combat. So this brings us to hippos. The research suggests a couple of things. One being the reason that the males are around the same size as the females is that there's these territorial fights happen in the water. Elephant seals I was talking about before that are 6 times larger as males, they fight on land, even though they're not well suited to be on land at all, but they're on land, so they can size each other up. They can see how big they are. They can resolve this thing on land. Hippos are fighting in water where they're largely submerged. You can't see how big they are, but you know what you can see? How big their mouth and their tusks are. Speaking of tusks. So that's where Kiki's comment comes in. Hippos have giant mouths. So that is the antagonizing behavior that they use, is that the water reduces the advantage of large body size in a territorial contest, and instead the visual sizing up is forced on the yawning and the gape of the jaw, so that the size of their tusks and the size of their mouth is really what's important. The other piece of this research that's really interesting is based on what they eat. Hippos are vegetarians, they're herbivores. They get that big eating plants all day, or all night, I should say, all night. But when they do that, caught myself. But when they do that, the idea from this research is that there's kind of a carrying capacity for weight on how big you can get eating grass. So basically, based on their body mechanics, the fact that they're sitting in water, cold water all the time, that affects their metabolism. They're eating grasses all the time. And so this research suggests that they have reached a maximum body size, and they have reached that physical limit with their physiology in the size of a female. And so the male really doesn't have much farther to go.
Wow. So the males, they're like that's it.
Yes.
But the females could keep getting bigger if they wanted.
Probably a little bit. Yeah. But
much,
then
though,
you have to figure in the metabolic input of being a mother mammal, which is a whole extra thing.
So there was a picture that you had up there of the teeth all looking like a bunch of tusks sticking out of the lower jaw there. And Daniel in the chat room is saying, I always thought their teeth were more blunt. Yeah, me too. I assumed they had big old like cow molar type things going on in there. And I with a couple, I remember seeing a couple of the big lower teeth before, but that picture you had up with one with its mouth open there. Yeah, it's a bunch of jaggedy tusks, I guess, poking out of it.
Yeah,
it's very weird.
They have these modified teeth that have become tusks that are specifically for this. It's for fighting with other hippos. It's for defending their territory as well, and it's why hippos are one of the most dangerous animals in the world.
So they don't do the food chewing thing? I mean, the cow is eating grass and is chewing food and has all this, like, 4 stomachs and all these things to deal with it. And this thing looks like it's... I don't even know what those tusk teeth would be good for.
But see, that's exactly it. That's what they're good for. They're not good for anything related to food.
Wow.
These guys are chomping on grass. So they have the flat molars in the very back of their mouth. They just have these modified incisors. They're not even canine teeth. They're modified incisors for this competition.
Poking each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Competing
And that's why
males.
That's why they're so dangerous. They run 35 miles an hour. They weigh 5,000 pounds, and they have teeth that stick straight out.
They run how fast?
Heavy teeth.
Wait, they run how fast?
35 miles an hour. So,
oh my goodness!
So sheer
they
momentum.
Are a car with a spear at the end.
Yeah.
Yes. 100%. Yes. So that's how most people die from hippos. It's because their hippos are mostly aquatic. They sleep in the water during the day. They get out of water to eat grass. They make these pathways with their big flat feet that look like footpaths for humans. They're not. And then you are in between a hippo and water, which is the one place you don't want to be. That's a threat to them. They turn around, they open their mouth, they stick those teeth out, and they run. And that's
how fast can they swim?
They don't swim really at all. They walk on the river bottom. They're terrible.
Okay, so you might be able to outswim one better than you can outrun. I'm just saying, if I'm stuck between the hippo and the water, I need to know which way to go.
Yeah.
You're saying run to the water.
I don't know.
I
think they're in trouble either way.
It's the same. It's between a rock and a hard place. It's between a hippo and the water.
Yeah. Because also there's probably crocodiles in there if you're in Africa. But anyway.
What? This does not get any better.
The bottom line of the story
is
based on this found 60-year-old data set, we now know a lot more about hippos and how different they are from other mammals with similar social structures based on this one piece of evolutionary biology. And so there's this intense male competition, which was expected, but it does not pressure large body size. It just pressures that big mouth, those big honking tusks. And so the difference between males and females is not so much controlled by competition, but instead by environment, diet, and physiology.
Do the lady hippos, maybe I missed this, do the lady hippos have those tusks as well?
They do. They're not as big.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Might make eating easier. Maybe that's why they're bigger.
Yeah.
Let's move on from all this scary.
From stabbing to kissing? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, stabbing to kissing.
Yes. So this might be spooky in its own way if you have a problem with small rodents, but
TWIS-o-ween.
Prairie dogs, they greet each other with kisses.
Aww.
Imagine being kissed by hundreds of prairie dogs. So this is a study by University of Arizona behavioral ecologist Jennifer Verdolin. And she has studied prairie dogs for nearly 20 years. She has discovered that they have dialects, they collaborate, they have cultural differences between colonies. And so she has spent much of those 20 years huddled in prairies, hiding from prairie dogs in Flagstaff, Arizona, watching them from afar. She's watched them outrun predators. She's watched them learn speech patterns. And then the other thing that she observed and started to study was thousands of greeting kisses. So prairie dogs greet each other with a kiss, and individuals that kiss each other and don't fight afterwards belong to the same social group and territory. So this is potentially like a de-escalation thing. It's a recognition thing. There's lots of weird stuff going on.
It's like the European French hello, but then if it doesn't go well, then suddenly you're like, I don't know, in a Basque brawl. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's always awkward. It's always awkward. Oh, hey, nice to meet you. Oh, you're going in to kiss my cheek. That's nice, sir. I didn't know.
No, thank you.
Yes. It reminded me of that Friends episode when Chandler and Monica are caught kissing, and then he goes and he kisses all of the other women in the room on his way out the door. Anyway, moving on.
Great cover.
From this research, she's found that the more times they kiss, the stronger their connection. Makes sense, right? She observed 80 prairie dogs spanning 14 different social networks. And for a long time, prairie dogs have been assumed to have a hierarchical social structure. They're in most prairie dog literature. If you do some light reading of some prairie dog literature, you'll find that it says that there is a single male and a harem of females. That is not what was observed in this study.
In fact, wishful thinking by a researcher out there staring at prairie dogs week in and week out.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a common thread in zoology where it's just kind of, that's the baseline assumption, right?
Yeah.
Is that the baseline assumption is that there's one male and a bunch of females, and like you have to prove me wrong, animal by animal, right? But anyway, point being, there's a bunch of males and females in these social structures, and not everyone gets kissed equally. There are community bridges, those that kiss members of neighboring social groups, so they're in with the neighbors. And then there are also hubs, those that get kissed by everybody, the popular prairie dogs. And so
the influencers.
Yes, the influencers indeed. And so she mapped the intricacies of their social dynamics. She looked at how many friends they had, one of them had. That's considered a degree of centrality in social network analysis. And then looking at how many connections an individual prairie dog facilitated, which is known as betweenness centrality. And so in social network analysis, they found that, previously we found that predators, environmental conditions, food availability all contribute to the ebb and flow of social interactions in most animals, and that proved true here as well. So there was an ebb and flow in who was kissing who and how well it was received, essentially. And what's really interesting is that another kind of assumption made with prairie dog society, because they are pretty complex, is that it would be a fission-fusion dynamic, which is what you see in most animal societies that are studied for their social dynamics. This is where resources directly impact social behavior. So that means a group might split up to forage when resources are lean, maybe seasonally, and then they would come back together when resources are abundant. They don't want to overload one resource source. But what we saw with prairie dogs, they maintain a territory year-round. They maintain a social group year-round, and the amount of food that's available will change the way they interact with each other. It'll change the strength of those interactions, the frequency of those interactions, but it won't move the prairie dogs physically. It won't change their relationship to that space or those resources. It just changes the way they...
Yeah, so persisting in the same area over a long period of time, they have to have a stronger social network.
But it's a malleable social network.
It is, but it's opposed to like a
it's like
migratory animal that might not have
Right.
those connections to the
Right.
neighbors. They might not have that sort of routine.
Yeah.
Fada has, I think, the best comment in the chat room there. When you kiss a prairie dog, you kiss every other prairie dog they've had contact with. Yeah,
That's
always
right. Yes,
Because
those
the
brute individuals.
mono
really-
goes through a prairie dog colony and their neighbors, just like a prairie fire.
So the reason this actually matters, other than just be like, oh, prairie dogs kiss, is that there's implications for conservation. So prairie dogs, their population historically was trashed in the 1970s ish. I don't remember exactly, but their population was ruined because they were hurting crops, they were hurting people's lawns, and they all got poisoned. We tried to eradicate them essentially. No surprises there. And so that impacted a bunch of animals nearby. All of the prairie dog burrows help with animals that need burrows. The black-footed ferret, I'm sure we've talked about on the show before and you've heard of, their population crashed because there were no prairie dogs to eat. So their impact, they actually impact about 100 species in their ecosystem. So the presence of prairie dogs can impact 100 different species that we've recognized of animals, right? So they have a pretty big impact on their space. So we care about these prairie dog kisses because this can impact the best way to do proper prairie dog conservation. A lot of the time, the focus is on having enough resources. Does this colony have enough resources? Great, it should do fine. But there's other factors. So how the animals are interacting, especially in high stress situations, might change how they respond to conservation efforts. So for, I think we talked about this a couple months ago, but behavior isn't usually integrated into conservation activities. And so the behavior right now that's distracting me, that needs to be figured into how I do the show from day to day. So that's, something to consider. We have some ghouls on the screen.
Nice tusks.
Yeah, there's tusks there, right there. Very good.
We've got some tusks. It's good.
Yeah, some tusks, indeed. But so, okay.
Back to the prairie dogs.
So the prairie dog kisses. So these are important for conservation efforts because what happens a lot of the time if people are wanting to do some construction around prairie dogs, if it's going to disrupt prairie dog landscape, they'll move them. But if you move what you consider a like social clique of prairie dogs and you're not considering the kisses, then you might be removing bridge individuals that are connecting nearby colonies, and that can have a huge kind of domino effect on that prairie dog population as a whole. So if you're going to reintroduce or relocate prairie dogs, you can't just move them. The resources are not enough. You have to look at the population dynamics, the social structure, and consider that when you relocate these prairie dogs. So you got to watch them kiss. That's the bottom line. You got to watch them kiss. You got to write it all down. Who's kissing who?
You have to take the kisses with you.
You have to take the kisses with you.
Pack the kisses.
I'm going to reveal a little bit of ignorance. Where are these prairies?
They are in the United States. No, they're like California, New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, like all of that area.
Okay, so these are
The
western.
prairie area.
I didn't know that. I like Prairie Home Companion.
Western.
I don't think of being anywhere near California, Nevada, Utah.
No, it's you're right. That's not.
There's
the
prairies
same
everywhere.
prairie.
Okay,
But
so
if you
these
think
are
about
like western.
home on the range, that's this area.
All right.
where the
Okay.
cowboys were.
So you know what? Do we humans? Do the humans need to go everywhere? And construction
I think you'll find
everywhere?
that they do if you ask those mummies.
Just stay away. Just stay out of there. Stay out of the prairie
That would be
dogs'
nice, but
way.
sometimes you got to build a golf course, disrupt the
No.
prairie dogs.
No, you don't. You really don't. There's enough golf courses. Just stay away. Just stay away, people. Stay away. If you love nature, stay away.
Oh yeah,
There it is. It's nowhere near where you said.
No,
There's
it's
nothing
nowhere
in
near where I
California.
said. You're right.
It is.
That's the
This
place.
is
I know
no,
animals.
this is the
I don't know geography. Okay.
well. No, that's fine. It's like I had no idea either. Okay, so
You're
this
too
is
busy
actually
looking at the kissing prairie dogs to
Yeah.
pay attention.
So
to
the
where they're living.
territory.
I mentioned some of the four corners. I got
You
those.
said 4 corners.
But it's nowhere near the corners. So, but what's interesting about this is Great
Well, but
Plains
is this
territory.
the current range or historical range, Kiki? Because
That actually, to me, looks like what was
This
treated
is the
native
geographical
land.
distribution of the black-tailed prairie dog, Cynomys ludovicianus.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's all the way up in Montana, down into parts of
Wyoming.
Texas, and you're right, New Mexico's in there, Colorado,
oh, see,
both
I got
the
some.
Dakotas.
I got some. I got like a D minus.
It
I
didn't
mean,
touch
pop
3
quiz, Blair,
states
pop
that you
quiz,
said
pop
it was
quiz.
in.
Okay.
Don't ask me to name states. I'll fail.
That's fine, but one of them is the one you're in. Anyway, but that's a very interesting map because that's very much the Great Plains. So the Great Plains is all through that, and so that's also the prairies is the Great Plains.
Yeah.
Is the same thing that we talk about, like the
Yes.
traditional bison buffalo grazing lands is also where this is. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to
Give
guess
me
because I
a
had no idea.
home Where the buffalo
Well, I'm looking too
roam,
because this is
and
very
the deer
confusing.
and the prairie dogs play. Where seldom is heard a discouraging word, 'cause those dogs have been kissing all day.
There you go.
Very well done.
Yeah.
Okay,
There we go.
okay, everyone. Thank
Is
you,
that who's
Blair.
bringing up all the maps? Is that you, Blair, trying to
Oh,
find
yeah.
one
No,
that fits?
I gave up because there was such a nice transition. But since it's been smashed, I'll tell you what I was showing you. I was showing you the historical range of the black-footed ferret because the historical range of the black-footed ferret would show you the historical range of the prairie dog, right?
Okay.
And so that's actually much closer. California's still not in there, so I'm not sure why. Because this is the thing is that ferrets are not allowed to be pets in the or in California because of this, but they're not in California. So I don't
Confused.
know. But yeah, look at this one. This is the historical range of the black-footed ferret. So it's getting much closer to California.
Yeah.
And it's including a lot more of the states that I mentioned for sure.
But yeah, I was curious about that because
Which map are we looking at?
Yeah.
yeah, I've like never been anywhere where there's a prairie dog. Like
I
I've never
think
been
you
able
have
to.
to
when you
zoo.
didn't know. They live underground.
No, but I've yeah. But I mean, I've never been like I've traveled throughout California. I've traveled throughout the western states for the most part, but I've never been anywhere where it's like, oh, out there is where the prairie dogs live.
We were in New
So even-
Mexico.
Yeah, I guess I have been to. We did go all to New Mexico. That's
Yeah.
right.
There you go.
I didn't see any
Anyway.
prairie dogs then either, though.
And you may or may not see prairie dogs wherever you are, but where you are right now is with TWIS. We hope that you are enjoying this show. It's TWIS-o-ween here. 2021. Woo! That in itself is scary. Don't be scared, though. Head on over to twis.org and get yourself a calendar and get ready for 2022. There's no reason to be scared of that. It's just another year, another calendar full of amazing art from Blair. So head over to twis.org. Get your calendar for 2022 today. All right, we're going to come on back now with some stories from Justin. It's your turn. What do you have?
I'm actually going to do I'm going to do one more story.
Okay,
I'm
just
dropping
one.
here. The Falkland Islands. Have you heard of this before?
I mean, I've heard of them.
I have heard of the Falkland Islands.
Okay,
before.
without looking
They
it up, where are
far
the Falkland
away.
Islands?
Don't ask me geography.
Where's
right
the
now.
Falkland
What did I
Islands,
just
bruh?
say? I mean, they're
Where's-
in the middle of some sort of body of water because they're
Very
islands.
good. Oh, well, okay, you're right. You know exactly where they are then.
Ah.
I actually doubt that most people could on a
Not Hawaii.
could pick out
I'm
the
looking it
Falkland
up right
Islands on a map. At least most Americans. If you're Argentinian or from the UK, you probably have a much higher chance.
Yeah, there's Argentina.
So these are small islands off the southeast tip of Argentina. They are thought to be one of the few places on the planet actually discovered by Europeans, because they were discovered to be uninhabited in 1690 by an English ship heading to Peru. It was settled nearly 100 years later by the French, and then the British, and eventually the Spanish as well. It was then abandoned and resettled again in the early 1800s by Argentina until a raid by the U.S. Navy in 1831 dissolved the government. A few years later, the British government took it over. Charles Darwin visited the Falkland Islands in 1833. He noted the unusual occurrence of a single terrestrial mammal species, a fox-like canid known as the Falkland Islands wolf, or the wara. In his journals, Darwin observed that the wara's lack of fear, its inquisitive nature, was likely going to class it with the dodo, an animal which has perished from the face of the earth, he wrote. 1876, the wara became the first canid to go extinct in modern times as a result of overhunting of this little fox. 1982, pretty recent history. The UK and Argentina engaged in an undeclared war over the islands, which lasted a little over 2 months. There were beach landings, there were boat bombings, planes firing on each other. This was an actual war between the UK and Argentina. Most people don't think of as one of the great wars because it all took place in and around these islands, and the British won that one, as one might imagine. So, anyway, this is findings from totally unrelated findings from a University of Maine-led study are suggesting human activity on the islands predated the British discovery by hundreds, if not thousands, of years. This is Kit Hamley, National Science Foundation graduate research fellow, led the investigation. She and her team collected animal bones, charcoal records, and other evidence from across the islands over multiple expeditions and examined them for indications of human activity using radiocarbon dating and other lab techniques. One of the notable signs of pre-European human activity derived from an 8,000-year-old charcoal record collected from a column of peat on New Island, one of the names of the islands, New Island, located in the southwestern edge of the territory. According to researchers, the record showed signs of marked increase in fire activity than 150 years, BC, or no, AD, 150 AD, and then abrupt significant spikes in 1410, and then later in 1770, which would have been when the sort of European colonization events were taking place by the French. Researchers gathered sea lion and penguin samples on New Island near a site where a landowner had discovered stone projectile points that were consistent with technology of indigenous South Americans over the past 1,000 years. And they found that these bones were sort of heaped in piles that looked like the kind of mounds that would be created by humans who were hunting and then taking them back to a specific point and dismembering them for food. So it looks like the indigenous South Americans likely traveled to the islands between 1275 and 1420. And prior dates can't be ruled out because there's some evidence that thousands of years, 8,000 years earlier, there may have been human activity. One of the things they also found was they found a tooth from one of Darwin's extinct Falkland Island foxes, the Falkland Islands wolf. So this is also one of those things that one of the questions was, is this lone mammal that Darwin finds in 1833, is it actually a native or could it have been brought there and released? And that's maybe this had been domesticated type of a fox, and that's why it wasn't afraid of people. But no, this tooth dates back about 4,000 years. So, I'm sorry, actually, what would it be? 5,450 years BC,
Wow.
according to the radiocarbon dating. So, this little fox somehow ended up isolated enough on this island to become its own species and had been there. Now we have the oldest record of it going back, 5,500 years.
Before people.
But, well, yeah. Or maybe the people had been there also, even going back further, because there's some evidence. But they think that's what it was. It would have been an island that humans would go to for short stays. They would go there, do some hunting and fishing in the area, but eventually return to the sort of mainland. But if they can find the 8,000-year-old evidence, again, this is a people, right? This is a people who colonized 2 continents. It would be really weird if they didn't keep exploring,
keep moving, keep going.
I mean, this is an island. This is an island that the settlers, the Spanish settlers throughout Argentina and the Americas and stuff, hadn't known was there, didn't even know it was there. Like, it got discovered by accident because a British ship was going by and was like, "What's that? It looks like land." And went to check it out. It's like, "Oh, that's not where we're heading." But they went and kind of checked it out and took a little bit of inventory of some of the life forms that were there. But
and said, "Let's plant a flag. It's ours now.
We'll come back later." And then the French went there first. So yeah. I have no doubt. I have no. But there was does anybody know about the Falklands War? Like, I feel like I missed that one. I would have been a child at the time it was taking place. But the UK and Argentina at war with each other, like battleships,
so hard to consider.
Planes, like beach landings, the whole thing. Crazy.
Yeah. It happened.
And I think the population on the islands is something around 3,000. Like, there's not, like, I don't even, like, there's not, like, why are you fighting over that? Stop it.
Because it's land and we could put things on it.
Yeah, I guess so.
Resources, land, it's important to somebody. Oh, my goodness. I have a couple of brainy stories to finish us up.
Nice.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So,
Brains!
Brains! Yes. I got brains. My zombie tank girl is coming to get you. Brains. Back when I was in graduate school, I studied bird brains. And one of the questions we were interested in the Clayton lab where I worked was whether or not the brain was prepared in some way, the little baby bird brain, whether it was ready for experience, whether it just grew on its own, or whether it was like, as soon as it got an experience that related to spatial memory, whether storing food or navigating, whether that caused or allowed for growth. And all the evidence seems to point to, in the birds that we were looking at that were food storing birds, and also in birds that were migratory, it's like as soon as they get that experience, it's like the hippocampus in the bird brain is just sitting there, little, doing normal little hippocampus things. And then you give it one seed to store and it proliferates. And suddenly you have neurogenesis and the brain grows. And it's like, wow, okay, this is a really interesting adaptation for energetics. And also because birds, they have to manage their weight. And so if they're not going to have those experiences, maybe they don't need to put the energy into it, right? So how many other species have this kind of preparedness in their brains, the waiting for experience? Some researchers at Drexel University just published in a journal called The Science of Nature. And I actually had to double check that was a real journal, because I was like, really? This isn't like a kid's book or something?
Or just somebody making it up because there's a journal called Science and a journal called Nature. They're like,
let's call it The Science of Nature.
The Science of Nature?
Yes. But they have published their study looking at neural expectation in termites. Turns out that termite brains are ready to go when they need to for the right opportunities. Termites have castes, right? It's a hierarchical, stratified population where different portions of the termite colony have different jobs. There's kings and queens that at some point get wings and they get to go out and fly and be free and reproduce and then go make a new colony and turn a new thing. And then there are others that don't get to fly away. They still get little wing buds, like they kind of wanted to almost fly away, but they never got that chance. And so which of these termites is getting ready for the right experience for that ability to take advantage of going out into the wide, wide world, leaving the colony and exploring? Well, these researchers looked at termite brain tissue and they determined that the termites are investing in brain regions that are their purpose, their function is to deal with the cognitive demands of flight. And this happens before that experience actually happens. So it's different from the bird brains where the experience happened and then neural proliferation happens. In the termites, they're like, which one of us will it be? We all must prepare. And so the termite brain gets ready to go, whether or not the termite's going to end up out there.
So are you saying, is it a matter of free your mind and your wings will follow? Or is it like, interesting. So is it really just come down to peer encouragement, peer pressure? Like, yeah, sorry, son, I wish you were going to be a flyer, but nah, you'll be working in the wood mine with your old man. Till the day you die, he'll never have wings and fly. Make your dreams smaller.
Right?
And then
You're
it's
never
like,
gonna go. You never get to do it.
I guess if that's the case, I just won't grow wings. I mean, like, that's weird. Like,
they've already gotten their brains kind of ready. They're ready for the cognitive demands, but then they don't have to, and the wings don't have to grow, and the stuff. They never make it past that kind of nymphal stage, and they just become regular colony adults, and they don't get to fly.
If you want to go very new age with this, I feel like you could say that this is like, the goldfish syndrome, but for your brain, right? Like your brain is going to grow to the container you put it in, right? So like reach for the stars and
then again, son,
to do more.
If you don't have wings, you can't fly, but then you're not gonna. The chances of you being eaten by a bat are much less. It's not all bad. It's not all bad.
It's true. These termites, the ones that aren't flying, they're mostly going to get eaten by what? Honey badgers? Bears? Yes. They're going to be eaten by those animals that want to dig into that dead tree meat.
Kinkajous? Who knows?
Kinkajous? Oh, fantastic. Yes. Yes. Well, the kings and the queens that make it into the outside world, they are ready to take up their ruling status. Their wings, their vestments of greatness, as well as their brains. They're ready to travel. Da, da, da. Okay, now moving on into why are we afraid of things sometimes? How do you, when you walk into a building or a new space and you're kind of like, oh, it's super creepy, what's going on around here? You know how sometimes you just get goosebumps for no reason that you can consciously explain? You're like, I know it's fine, everything's safe, but
it's just a bank, but something about the people here is just unnerving me.
I was gonna go much darker with it and say, you mean like every time that I walk around at night by myself as a woman? Oh no, wait, there's a reason for that one though.
Well, it's dark, right? There's dark. It's also being alone, not having, being a woman outdoors alone in a city area. Yeah, okay, all these things. Beyond even that, it's
more like that plant is making a scary shadow and now I'm creeped out.
Yes, exactly. So researchers at the University of Toronto have been interested in what are the basic components that lead us to have certain feelings even before we are consciously aware of the things that are around us in a particular space. And so they did a study and determined that individuals, we process particular features of danger very quickly without conscious control because it helps us avoid danger. And we know that this is true. Like a snake, maybe you don't know it's a snake, but you see a long vertical shape. You go, oh, you jump away from it. And then you look back and you go, oh, that was a stick. But if you are lucky, you go, I didn't get bitten by a cobra. That's great. So they looked backwards to see all this. They published it in scientific reports, and they found that there is an emotional aspect to very specific features. They used a picture set that is used in psychological research all the time. It's called the International Affective Picture System, and it's a database of about 1,000 images from people to beaches and furniture in rooms to things that are actually disturbing, like natural disasters.
And banks.
Banks, things that evoke different emotional response, and researchers use them in psychological studies when they do want to evoke particular emotional responses. Well, these researchers took away all of the color context. They took away all the stuff that was the real stuff in the pictures and left lines. All that were left were lines. And they found that people viewing these pictures that just had lines, vertical lines, horizontal lines, broken up, jaggedy lines, long, open, free lines, they had emotional responses in the same exact way as to the full contextual content.
Wow.
That's
so the
cool.
subconscious brain is able to either reconstruct the image, but not necessarily translate it to the conscious brain, but still react to it on the visceral level?
Yes.
Wow.
Exactly.
So if I'm not wearing my glasses, I would be equally creeped out, even though everything's fuzzy.
Exactly. You would. You'd be like, okay, it's fuzzy, but I know that that's jaggedy, or this is whatever. And so when they took everything out, they found that the lowest level features that were able to trigger emotional responses were consistent across types of landscapes. So open horizontal lines, which remind us of landscapes, of beaches, those seemed to give positive, effective emotions. Whereas, like I've said a couple of times already, like jagged, broken lines are short, angular, are negative and threatening. So just taking out all the other context, these very basic aspects of imagery can affect our emotional response to things that we see, and we don't even know why. It's just lines. We're like, my intuition.
Like those lines.
Yeah. And so the question, because we have this thing going back, people, babies are afraid of snakes, right? We have these kind of built-in fears. And so the question is, at what point are these fears that are actually genetic, that are wired in from birth, and which are learned, and what components are genetic and what components are learned in the way that the circuits are all wired together. So, long, open, horizontal lines leading to positive, happy, it's turning off your amygdala, making things happy and fuzzy, or the jaggedy stuff turning on your amygdala, making you angry, afraid. These are very interesting questions.
I'm sure they're very deeply ingrained evolutionarily. Yeah. I mean, it would make sense. So I was thinking about, not to bring it back to, my trip and everything, but I was snorkeling and we were around a bunch of fish. There were a bunch of like reef fish, and it was awesome. But there was one moment where there was this huge school of fish, and they started kind of moving erratically and splitting apart. And I felt my heart rate increase. Like, I knew I wasn't about to get eaten by a shark. I know.
Did you?
That
But did you?
I know that that's extremely unlikely.
Really?
I
But did
know,
you really know that it couldn't happen?
but something about the way the fish were moving
Mm-hmm.
kind of got my heart rate going. And you know, think about it. We came from fish. So if the
Yeah.
fish are scared,
Suddenly
there's
you're one.
probably something
Yeah.
very deeply ingrained in me to know if a prey animal is scattering, that's not good. Of course, I had to remind myself, like, oh no, they're probably doing that because I look like a predator. But
I'm the bad guy.
there's still, you know, this piece that's very visceral. That's okay, something's amiss. And evolutionarily, there would be a benefit to responding to that and to responding to, I don't know, I guess shapes that indicate bad stuff. There would be a huge benefit to that.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, our conscious mind is too slow to keep us alive. It has to be
Yeah,
faster.
that's
And what are the
absolutely true.
things? Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's figuring out what are the things that are affecting the unconscious mind and making us react before we're ready. And I guess, yeah, so many questions about it. So many questions. But as we head into...
I was going to say too, quickly throw in, you got into a conversation with somebody who does dream studies.
Yes, I did. Yeah,
So
there have been a couple of
up on
great
the
study,
website.
great
That's up on the
interviews
website
our
now. A recent interview with somebody who says, wasn't part of that, like, I don't know if it was covered in that, but
Rivero.
yeah, like, the people who have sort of premonition type dreams, oftentimes it could just be that subconscious brain, which is capable of much more than it can translate to our tiny conscious ape brain, can do a lot of insane calculations, probably does a tremendous amount of predictive power, constructing all the known events of our current reality with the possibilities, and then pick some stuff out. Then you dream it. You dream it through a little bit, it spills over. Now, if your dream doesn't happen, if the things it's playing with, the running possible futures, doesn't pan out, you don't think twice about it. Now, when it hits, you're like, oh, I had a premonition dream because it totally sounds. But it's probably the brain doing that all the time, trying to have that predictive of best or worst fears or things that could happen that you hope for or things that you hope won't happen can happen in dreams as you're sort of playing with the scenarios. I like this study because it's showing that there's a part of your brain that is much smarter than you, and maybe if there was a way to tap into it, if there was actually a way to elevate that part of the brain, we would just all go insane immediately by having too much fear, predictive insight into what's going to happen next.
And Kev B in the chat room brings up a really important question, which is, can this research make haunted houses more scary? Which I bet that it can.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you can take advantage of the angularity, of sharpness, of broken angles and broken lines, maybe
you know who does that?
Your haunted house scarier.
You know who does that magnificently? Tim Burton.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's
something definitely to look in. Look at your favorite horror movies. Look at your, the things that make you fearful. Look at the things that make you feel comfortable and happy, and take a look at them from this perspective of how they're constructed. Try and break them down a little bit in your heads. But it's Halloween, so we're all about scary. All the teeth, big fangs, big fangs. Big tusks.
Pointy teeth.
Pointy hippo tusks. All right. Have we done it?
We've done it.
Yay.
We've done it.
Ooh, you might not have thought we would have made it to the end of this haunted episode of TWIS, but we have. We made it. And I would love to say thank you to everyone for joining us for this TWIS-o-ween episode. We do hope that you enjoyed the show. And I would like to thank people who have helped the show. Thank you to Fada. Thank you to Fada for helping with, oops, I'm clicking all the wrong things right here. click, 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 click. Thank you to Fada for helping with show notes and show descriptions and social media. Thank you to Identity4 for recording the show. You picked up a couple of episodes last week separately, which was very awesome. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for everyone who helps in the chat room to keep the chat room calm and polite and happy and, maybe a little bit spoopy in this episode. And thank you, as always, to our assistant, Rachel, for helping us out get our TWIS calendar dates together, for editing the show. She also has helped with a couple of extra episodes this week. And thank you to our patrons. Thank you to the TWIS patrons for supporting TWIS. Thank you to Kent Northcote, Rick Loveman, Pierre Velazarb, Ralph E. Figueroa, John Ratnaswamy, Carl Kornfeld, Karen Tozzi, Woody MS, Andre Bissett, Chris Wozniak, Dave Bunn, Vegard Shefstad, Hal Snyder, Jonathan Stiles, a.k.a. Don Stylo, John Lee, Ali Coffin, Maddie Perrin, Gaurav Sharma, Shu Brew, Don Mundus, Stephen Albaran, Daryl Myshak, Stu Pollock, Andrew Swanson, Fred S104, Sky Luke, Paul Runovich, Kevin Reardon, Noodles, Jack, Brian Carrington, Matt Bass, Shauna Nina Lamb, John McKee, Greg Riley, Mark Hessenflow, Gene Tellier, Steve Leisman, a.k.a. Zima, Ken Hayes, Howard Tan, Christopher Rappin, Dana Pearson, Richard, Brendan Minish, Johnny Gridley, Kevin Railsback, Rami Day, Flying Out, Christopher Dreyer, Artyom, Greg Briggs, John Atwood, Arizona, support Aaron Lieberman for governor, Rudy Garcia, Dave Wilkinson, Rodney Lewis, Paul Mallory Sutter, Mallory Sutter, Philip Shane, Kurt Larson, Craig Landon, Mountain Sloth, Jim Drapeau, Sarah Chavez, Sue Doster, Jason Olds, Dave Neighbor, Eric Knapp, EO, Kevin Parachan, Aaron Luthen, Steve DeBell, Bob Calder, Marjorie, Paul Disney, David Simmerly, Patrick Pecoraro, Tony Steele, Ulysses Adkins, and Jason Roberts. Thank you for all of your support on Patreon. And if you are interested in supporting us on Patreon, please head over to TWIS.org and click on that Patreon link. On next week's show,
we will be back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, broadcasting live from our YouTube and Facebook channels and from TWIS.org/live.
Hey, do you want to listen to us as a podcast? Maybe while laying on some island's beach? Just search for This Week in Science wherever podcasts are found. If you enjoyed the show, you can get your friends to subscribe as well.
All right, for more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes and links to stories will be available on our website, www.twis.org. And you can also sign up to go at sea with me as your captain. Just make sure you bring your plenty of rum, a barrel of rum, and maybe something to eat. I didn't really plan ahead.
Bring science!
Bring some science stories.
You can also
bring the science
directly. You can send us some electronic mail at Kirsten@thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twisted@gmail.com, or me, Blair, at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into a haunted house filled with mummies and teeth.
You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we got at with science, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a bat that comes to you in the night, please let us know.
Oh, a bat. Yes, let us know. We'll be back here next week, and we hope you join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from the show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. Science. I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say, and if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. Science. I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. Science. This Week in 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 Science.
Blair, come back from vacation, okay?
No. No.
Blair is still lying on a beach with a Mai Tai or a piña colada.
I mean,
I'm very jealous.
it
I'm very jealous here.
is what you make it, you know?
Yeah. Gaurav Sharma's right. You are a total mood.
Just
That's good.
making
Little
waves
tiki
with
mug.
my office chair. It's great.
Yeah. And this does look like it's a chocolate covered something, but it's, I don't know, a big, a little flexible Bigfoot thing. I don't know. He's funny. I haven't quite figured out how to play with him. I don't know. He's weird. You think he would move around, and he doesn't really want to move around very much.
Oh, jeez. I love a Bigfoot.
He's a Bigfoot. I mean, we're in Portland, so.
Bigfoot.
I'm in Portland. Yeah, I'll put him over here staring at me while I do the show. He'll just distract me. Always. Oh, there's Justin. He came back. Yarr, pirate Justin.
Yeah, it's so hard to tell because it's you have to see it's a long jacket. It's for.
Oh, it's got good buttons.
It's got
There you
good
go.
buttons. You gotta have good buttons.
Yarr. All right, Blair.
And they got a doubloons.
It is the after show, so divulge some of the fun things that you did.
Okay, I'll get closer to the mic. Okay.
So what's this? What's this story? Wait, the backstory here is
Backstory.
There's a little
There's
backstory
backstory.
to this, right?
Mm-hmm. There is.
So
Why she went on vacation.
You met a boy.
I
at
met a
some point.
boy
Yep.
through the marvels of modern science.
You made one. Oh my gosh. No, you found this guy, and then it turns out you liked
Not
each other
Pinocchio.
a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and to the point where you decided, that's it. I need to get this in writing. We are going to be together forever.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That's true. Oh, that made my nose really red.
And so then there was some sort of ceremony.
Mhm.
Yes,
I
there
imagine,
was. Yes.
in which you said nice things to each other.
We did. Yeah.
And then
Yeah. Yeah, how was it, Justin? Did you enjoy the ceremony?
So I had, unfortunately, a conflicted schedule where I had another engagement at the California Academy of Sciences that day.
Can't believe your day.
It was a crazy day, but I made it back to the after the ceremony, and everybody was very lovely. And oh my goodness, I don't know who the human being is who gave the speech when you two were sitting there. Your best friend who gave this amazing, incredible wedding tribute to you and Brian's love. She did an amazing job. And I remember the whole time, like, she's saying these beautiful words, and I remember thinking, good grief, I could never give a speech like that for anybody. Like, I would just be terrible at saying like that kind of stuff. She was amazing. Oh my gosh, there's a picture of me
There it is.
looking almost like I don't fit into that jacket at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, her speech was so good.
Yeah.
Oh, it made me cry a lot, actually.
Yeah.
It was very sweet.
It was such a sweet one.
I liked your dad's speech, Blair.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, your dad.
Yeah.
Great. I hung out with Blair's parents a lot at her wedding. It was
They're pretty
great.
rad.
They're rad. Yeah. I was like, hey, Blair's parents, how's it going?
So I don't recognize the gentleman in the picture, but that's not the guy you married, though.
No.
No. Am I allowed to show
Yeah.
pictures? Okay, because I have
You
some
can do
good
it.
ones. Okay. I have some good ones. Let's see, what's the one we want to...
Yeah, so we had a wedding. It happened. It only rained in the last hour.
Hold on.
So that was funny. When we booked the venue, they were like, it's only rained like 2 days in the whole in the last 200 years. It's only rained twice on this day.
Yeah.
We got it. It was so
some
cold.
Oh, this is a very cute boomerang.
Yeah, I got a cute little GIF. That's like boomerangy. It's super cute. I didn't share this one with you. Google Photos made it for me.
Oh, that's really cute.
Yeah, I'll send that one to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a lot of pictures yet because the photographer hasn't sent them yet. And I didn't have my phone all day, so...
You weren't taking pictures. You're going to get
No.
some great pictures from that photographer.
Yeah, he was great.
I think actually Kiki took the best photo, though. It's the one. It's the look back.
Yeah,
Yes, I gotta
that's such a
find that
good
one.
photo.
I think that's better probably than anything that's gonna come from the wedding.
I like
photos.
this one
is my.
too.
Oh.
That's pretty nice.
Justin's like, I don't know how to focus my phone. How do you do that?
How does it work? This is my favorite photo. This is a fan. This is like
Yeah, that's a good
That is
one.
awesome. That's a great pick.
They were walking away. I'm like, no, turn around.
Turn it around.
Turn around. Let's do that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
fantastic.
got a good one. So cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all so happy that you finally got to celebrate. Put off for
Yes.
so long.
Finally.
Phew,
It was like
finally.
right up until the day it was happening. I was like, is this really going to happen? Is it going to happen? Is this
Yeah.
actually gonna go? Is it
I
going
got-
to go?
Yeah, me and Kiki were talking about whether or not we should actually make plans for it because we're like, are we really gonna do it this time? Maybe.
I mean,
All
it was
right.
our last shot. We weren't going to try again, so.
Yeah, there's one in here that if I can wait. Hold on.
The cake was frozen. It was really hard to cut.
Oh no. Oh wait, I think I took this pic. Yeah.
There's the one. Right there.
I took that one.
I'm a hippo.
There's the cake. Here's the cake. Is it going to taste good, Brian? I don't know. Is it frozen? It's like an ice cube. Just take the picture. Why won't the
It's
photographer
cold.
take the picture? Do we have to do this right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, photographer was very much in the way of the photos. I thought on that. No.
They tend to do that.
It's like standing right in my way. Jeez.
Yeah.
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 It
So
was
then, yeah,
cute.
the day after we jumped on a plane and went to tropical paradise. It was great.
Woohoo!
So
And
where in the Hawaii's? Because I understand there's more than one island.
There is. We were in Maui.
All right.
Yes.
Is
And I
that the what they refer to as the Big Island?
No,
No.
No.
it's not.
Oh, it's not. What's
but
the Big Island? Well, it
Were you in
doesn't matter.
Lahaina?
we were in Kaanapali actually.
Kaanapali, okay.
But we visited Lahaina a couple times while we were there. But the
Okay.
thing about Maui, which I didn't realize until we were on our way back to the airport and we overheard the shuttle driver talking about it, which I wish I had known the whole time we were there. We had this amazing hotel room with a balcony that was facing the ocean, and from it you could see 2 other islands. And I guess on a lot of the Hawaiian Islands, you can't see other islands based on the direction that you're facing
Yeah.
and how far it is between the islands.
Oh.
But we were we could see Lanai and oh gosh, what
And Lanai is not really a populated island.
no, apparently there's only like one resort on Lanai, and one
Yeah.
night there is like $5,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
The other one that we saw was Molokai.
Cool.
Is that? Yes, that's the one that we saw. So and then when we went down to Lahaina, we also saw Kahaloe,
Mhm.
which is the crazy thing about that island is that it was a nuclear test site.
Yep.
And so there's no humans allowed on or around
wow.
it. Because not only the radiation, but also there's a bunch of undetonated mines in the water and on the island. And so
What?
it's yeah.
Super
Humans
dangerous.
are
However,
humans are bad.
the resort there is only $5 a night.
Yeah.
So
You can stay there if you don't really
Oh,
care much
God.
about your
Yeah.
life.
how has that not been like fixed?
Fixed.
I don't understand.
they're like, just
I don't
leave it.
understand. I don't get it.
I don't know. I mean, I guess the plants thrive over there. Apparently the joke was there's a lot of 3-legged goats, but
Ugh.
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But the other thing we did that was really cool. So we went snorkeling a bunch. We saw a bunch of stuff. I saw a sea turtle and followed it at a safe distance via snorkel for like 10 minutes.
Nice.
It was so fun.
I'm glad that you followed your own advice, Blair. You're like, you didn't go like super tourist and be like, I'm going to touch the turtle
Oh god.
just because you were there.
No. the really touristy thing that we did was we got in a submarine.
Oh,
What?
that's cool.
A real submarine with
What?
we went 130 feet underwater.
Wow.
And
that's
there was a
awesome.
sunken ship, and we saw eagle rays and reefs and
Oh,
all
that would
sorts
be
of cool,
so cool.
stuff. Yeah, and so they had it looked exactly like the submarine ride in Disneyland. They had the circle windows along both sides.
Nice.
But it really did dive underwater. It was so cool.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was really awesome. And we went to a luau, and yeah, we did as many things that we could do safely.
Right,
that you
that
didn't need a
was
rental car
good for you.
for, because you can't get rental cars right now. So
And
Yeah,
that's
so
a
is
picture
that-
you took?
no,
No. I
Sorry,
just found
well,
this
I'm
one
just-
of an eagle ray on the internet.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
This is
Because I'm
me
like,
just loading
I want to go in the
images.
submarine now.
That's so cool. So you went
'Cause
on a
my-
little
my-
submarine ride.
So
That's
you could
awesome.
see stuff in the submarine. Because my fear would be, you'd be like, well, we're going on the submarine, and you go down, and it's just dark.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, oh yeah, it's dark when you go deep down underwater.
No,
but I
it
guess
wasn't
at
that
100 and
deep.
something feet,
Yeah, it's
you
100.
could still
feet. Yeah.
you could still see. Okay.
There's still enough light at 130 feet. But did it just go straight down? I mean, it's a submarine, so it's pressurized on the inside. It doesn't have to do any
Mm-mm.
weird
Interesting.
staying at a certain level. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
What's really cool is because it had one of those like glass bubble fronts where the captain sat. They said like if there's a crack in that, it costs like $80,000 to replace it or something. So it docks all day
So there's duct
away
tape
from the
all
shore
on different parts.
because they don't want a boat accidentally smacking into it, right? So we had to take a boat out into the ocean, and then it hooked up to the submarine surfaced right in front of us. It hooked up to the submarine, and then we went onto the submarine from a boat. It was so
Awesome.
neat.
That sounds like a blast. Okay, I want to go.
Yeah, it was very fun.
I want to do that.
And
Or
then, of
maybe
course, they
if
ate a
there's
lot
a
of
ride
fish.
at Disneyland, that might be enough.
Yeah, that one doesn't go fully underwater though, so it's
And it wasn't. Wait, it wasn't the what? What was it called? It's not. Was it the Atlantis?
yeah.
Okay, I'm seeing pictures of it right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
bring one up. I gotta want to see this.
Yeah.
This is a commercial now.
It's now a
No,
commercial.
I don't think that's totally
Company.
fair though. That's who was Guava was in the chat room saying, I didn't even know you could go on submarine rides. Yeah, neither did I. I had no idea that was a
Yeah, there it is.
what?
Yeah.
If
It's
that's
so
really
cool.
what it is, I
Yeah.
totally want to go.
Yeah, that's exactly
Alright.
what it looks like.
All right, I'm in.
Yeah, that's cool. I would like to go on a ride.
Yeah, we need to have a TWIS honeymoon.
Yeah.
Go-
Well,
When do
I'm
we
sure
get
they
to
have
go on our
conferences-
honeymoon?
Yeah,
I'm sure they have conferences like in Hawaii and the Bahamas. They
whatever it
have
is, let's book
conferences.
it. Let's book one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like a marine science conference and some
Something.
tropical islands.
Don't even care. It doesn't have to be science. Marine
No,
margarita
but
contest.
Justin, then it's a TWIS expense, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. We can do some recording
Sciencey.
stuff. Okay.
Sciencey. We
Yeah,
gotta we
we
make a
could
little
do a
video
show
and
over
do
there,
a
then
thing,
it's
and
like-
suddenly, yes. Oh, there's the ship,
There's the sunken ship.
sunken ship.
Yeah.
That I would do that. That would be
Yeah.
so
It
fun.
was so fun. It was
That looks
great.
awesome.
It was
And
so good.
is Hawaii? I know they were having a bit of a COVID spike there for a while, but how are things? How were people? How was it all?
That's
I mean,
a very
it-
confined space. I
it
don't know if
was-
I'm
Yeah,
enjoying
I'm
it.
looking
Yeah.
at it. I'm like, oh, yikes!
Yeah, everyone wore masks. No, every restaurant we went to and there we had to show our vaccine cards. Not even photos. We had to bring the actual vaccine cards and show them
Wow.
everywhere we went. So that was actually really encouraging and great. So knowing that everyone had to flash a vaccine card to do all the things that we were doing made it feel way safer.
Mhm.
I think we even had to do it to get on the shuttle from the airport. Like it was locked down.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was a whole screening process to get into Hawaii also. We had to upload our cards to their website. We had to do a health screening. We had to go then even after that at the airport, we had to go check in with the Hawaii desk and show them our vaccine cards. Like they're being very careful. Also, it was almost impossible to get a dinner reservation anywhere because all of the restaurants, all of the indoor anything are still at 50% capacity there.
Yeah.
So we had to stand by for a lot of tables at restaurants, but that was also fine because we would call restaurants. They'd say like, "Oh, we're booked up for the next 6 months." I think a lot of people are booking things without
But maybe
even
not
fully
making it
booked.
out there.
Exactly. Maybe not
Okay.
making it to Hawaii at all. Maybe
Yeah.
not just showing up. Who knows?
Huh.
But yeah, so we never had to wait too long for a table anymore.
And
but-
I assume
Great.
it's Hawaii. They kind of have hospitality down. So while you're waiting, they're probably bringing you drinks.
we
go
never
stand
waited
at the
long enough for
bar.
that to be a problem. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I always say I don't need a table. Just let me sit at the bar. I'm good.
Mhm.
I'll eat at the
Yeah.
bar. It's fine.
We did that one day. We got sushi at the bar. Yeah, but the crazy thing for me was even though I knew this, I wasn't so silly that I like didn't look this up. I knew there was a time difference, but I think my brain didn't understand it because I started on the Pacific Ocean and I
Pacific
landed
Ocean
on the
time.
Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
But
Right?
it's 5 hours
It's
later.
a 5-hour flight. It is
Yeah.
a 3-hour
It's
time
3
difference.
hours time difference. Yeah.
So the thing that happened to us the night we got there that was insane was we landed and it was Hawaii time. It was 3 p.m. Okay, we got our bags. We waited for the shuttle. We took the shuttle. We checked into our room. We unpacked a little bit. We called down to the restaurant. They didn't have bookings for that night. Like, we're getting hungry. We like went to the store. We got a snack. We ate some Maui sweet onion potato chips and like had a beer. We were like just chilling. Then all of a sudden, I felt like I was gonna die. Like I expired that night. Like the first night, I like got a stomach ache. I got a headache. Felt terrible. I got into bed. I took a 45-minute nap, and then I woke up at 9:30. And Brian's
which was midnight,
and
it's
your
like
and your
12:30
poor
at night to you. Yeah,
and
Yeah.
your poor groom is like, oh, so this is what I'm in for.
Yeah, no, so like I woke up and he was like, "Oh, I figured out why we feel so terrible. It's 12:45 right now." I was like, "No, it's not." He's like, "No,
Yes,
no,
it
we haven't
is.
eaten
It's late."
since breakfast."
you both are
Wow.
like, it's time.
Yeah, so that was it. The first night, it was just definitely like a total
your mind
distortion.
around it.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
hard, and we were waking up at like 6 a.m. every day because it was 9 here, and falling asleep at 9 p.m. But like that was all fine because
Perfect. Yeah.
there's not a lot of nightlife where we were, and
Yeah.
all the snorkeling's good in the morning, so it worked out. It was great.
You didn't need the nightlife.
Well, they didn't know if
I
there
mean, I
was
guess
one.
you're
She's saying
married
there
now,
wasn't
so
one,
you don't
but
need.
they
You're
were.
not playing the singles.
No, all my friends who like I know a few people who have condos in Hawaii or they have family from Hawaii,
Yeah.
and they were all saying like, "Oh, if you want the nightlife, don't go to Maui." I was like, I'm good.
Yeah,
That's not why I'm going to Hawaii. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
though.
Maui's lovely. Yeah, it's
no,
great.
it's great.
But it is weird that you're like, wow, I'm flying 5 hours. That's as long as it takes to go to New York. It's like, but the other direction
Yeah, just over ocean the whole
Yeah.
time.
the whole time.
And then we landed in the middle of a bomb cyclone.
Yes.
So that was a fun landing.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah, because you were there ahead of it.
I didn't
Yeah.
even think about that. I was like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, Lake Tahoe just got topped up, but like in a day.
So I heard
Yeah,
a
that was
toll
crazy.
booth washed away on the Bay Bridge. There were entire streets flooded in San Francisco, and we had to
Yeah.
land in the middle of it. So that was fun. It was not the smoothest descent I have ever experienced, but
I'm sure they're used to it.
oh yeah, they're for sure used to it. And it wasn't even the worst. Like I've had way worse drops on descents when there are air pockets versus a storm. The air pockets are way worse. So the whole plane screamed a couple times if we dropped like 100 feet.
No way.
And I was like, I didn't like that, but I didn't need to scream from that. Like, I've definitely experienced worse.
Yeah, I have a. I don't think that when
You're like, it's
when
fine. We're going to Hawaii. It's just like a ride at Disneyland. It's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would die screaming, even in a plane crash. I don't think like screaming would be like, because I don't feel like that's gonna do anything, right? Like if it was gonna like make the outcome a little better, I'd scream louder than anybody.
Yeah.
It's not really gonna help
Yeah.
anything.
Okay, let's see if I can take this hat off without ruining.
My vest is shedding. I think I have inhaled some of whatever this
Faux rabbit or whatever.
pink rabbit fur. Yes.
There we go.
There's like pink fibers all over the place
Jeez.
here. I'm like,
There's white hair all over me too. So
costumes are awesome. We need them more often. So is this like, are we going to TWIS-o-ween every week? Just costumes here on out?
I need a budget. Can you
Yeah,
send
you're
me
gonna
a
have to up the
budget?
TWIS budget, Kiki. But I'm
Yeah.
totally in. I could.
Look at this fun hair.
It
I might
is
not
fun
actually
hair.
end up
I
with
like
a
that.
costume. I might just
Yeah.
try to talk with a different accent every week.
Okay. That's good.
Put on
We can go
put
with
on
that.
a different facade than my normal Justin facade.
Which facade it'll be this week? Oh, I don't know. The one that we use every week. Well, Blair, it's wonderful to have you back.
I'm
But-
excited to be
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to have you back, especially for a fun TWIS-o-ween episode.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
excited.
Yes. I love it.
Gosh,
I'm
that
glad
whole
you had a
getting
great
married thing
holiday.
looked fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
When are you going to have another one? No.
No. No, I have to tell you, having the wedding was very fun. Planning the wedding,
Uh-oh.
some of it was fun, but some of it was a big drag. So I don't look forward to planning another wedding.
Fair enough.
That's definitely
Fair
I feel
enough.
I feel like I'm getting a glance at Auntie Blair.
Yeah.
And
I need like one long
know.
earring.
yeah,
Sure
yeah. It's like a few decades. You'll also have some big Hawaiian bead necklace because you go back there
yeah.
every
like that.
year.
We're used to
Every
you with
year.
your long hair, and I'm like enjoying this super short, spiky look. Like, this is cute. Hey there.
So the thing is, I think I would be really tempted to do this. I have a black wig that looks like this kind of too, and I love the way it looks, but my hair wouldn't do this. My hair is
Yeah.
curly, so it would
Be different. Yeah.
be a curly fuzzball if it was this length.
I don't know if you process it enough. It would
That's
look
true.
like
Just
that, and it
burn
would
it.
stick out.
Yeah. just
would've
fry it, please.
It's fried. It's totally fried. It's okay. Don't get the Karen cut, Blair, says Garov. No. Don't do it.
I bought this for my Good Omens costume a couple
Yeah.
years ago.
I wore my bit of feather that was on my
Oh
microphone
yeah.
for years. A little
Good,
homage.
good.
Little TWIS homage. I do love this wig though. The pink color is one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's good. I think I could have pink hair.
Yeah, of course you could.
Do it.
What if I dyed the bottom half of my hair white?
Ooh, it's like
All right. well,
reverse
but
Cruella.
if you were doing it before Halloween, then at least you have a proper excuse.
Yeah.
Do you think you could actually get your hair white?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
it
really
would,
can.
It takes a
would,
lot,
It would
though.
look like this though. It would look. It would,
No. Like
It would kill. It would kill the curls. It would
You
make it
strip
look like
all.
straw.
It strips everything out to get
Yeah.
it that white. Yeah.
So I'm just sharing hair care topic tips and insights because I've never been able to get my hair lighter than an orange if I've tried to bleach it. Because like it's just
Are you
it's
trying to
too-
do
Yeah.
it by yourself?
Yeah. Is that you doing a box, or is that?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
doing it
Don't
multiple
do that.
times. Doing it
If-
multiple times.
No, it
out of
doesn't
a-
matter. No.
Oh.
Hair care professionals, hair color professionals know how
Ah,
to
they know how to do
counteract
the
color,
thing.
how to strip color, how to do
Okay.
more than just the peroxide. So
All right. I'm not talking about peroxide. I'm talking about the actual like your scalp is burning.
you're
kind
not
of
supposed to
bleaches.
burn your scalp.
Yeah. But that's how
That
you
makes
get the good.
make your hair fall out.
Yeah, it totally happened.
Totally
I
happened.
have way less hair than I used to. But that was
One
also
day, just
that was also
Seriously, in your
probably
20s,
around the
it's
time.
just
That was
a
probably
rite of
around the time the
passage.
Argentina and the UK were in a war in the 1980s. So it was a long time ago. But
Yeah, that's seriously though. I feel like it was like a 1990s rite of passage for
A lot of people
1990s, late
bleaching.
90s especially for people to try and bleach their hair,
yeah.
like and do it with box and I don't know. There were a lot of bleaching attempts. I
I
have
dyed my
yellow
hair-
hair in a few photos.
I dyed my hair blue black for quite a few years.
I like that.
It was fun.
actually, I might have a photo. Hang on a second.
Better living through chemistry.
It's the reason I never did it again is that I like wanted to grow my natural color back, and it
Mhm.
took
A
years.
long time. Especially when you have long hair.
Yeah, it took
Yeah.
so long, and it was just a box. But it took so long to get my natural color back.
What do you have, Justin?
I actually have a
I have
photo.
yawns. You have a
of-
photo?
The blondest my hair was able to get, and it was just orange.
Yes.
And this is after, I'm like, this
You
is
look like
just
such a
orange. This is just orange hair. I couldn't get it to go. And this was like multiple bleachings. And it just, the hair just was like, what? This is all I can do.
And you're like a cat with like the dark scalp underneath too. your
Gosh,
scalp's
look at
just
this
like,
goofy,
no.
look at this goofy kid. Hey, everybody.
You were
Hello.
so cute. Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
You were such a baby. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
My head is itchy. I'm gonna ready.
Baby Justin. My goggles have an elastic band and are squeezing my head. Oh, she has hair again. Long hair.
It was all in here.
It's
Oh
all
my
there.
goodness. What?
The secret is the bald cap.
The bald cap.
Oh.
A little twist.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's my favorite part of wearing a wig is everyone's like, "Where's all your hair?"
It's
Oh,
in there.
That's in there.
It's in there.
Don't you worry about it.
Yeah. I don't know. At some point, when my hair decides to go white, maybe I'll let it go like salt and peppery and
Mm-hmm.
be like, hopefully get towards like that distinguished gray kind of look. But I might just say forget it and go pink or lavender because the lavender haired little old lady, I think I could do that fairly well.
You definitely could.
Yeah.
All of my gray hairs are showing up right here.
Ooh,
Can't
you're getting
really
a
see it on the
streak.
screen, but I'm hoping.
That'd be awesome.
I'm really
My
hoping it
aunt-
comes in as a streak.
My aunt had Cruella, like a single streak that went across the front, like this beautiful white streak. She was,
Oh,
it's like,
that's
it was
so
like
cool.
Cruella DeVille almost. It was,
Like Rogue from the X-Men.
yes, like it was just this single streak. And I was like, really? Really? How did you get that? Why I want that.
Yeah. I
I'm
know.
going to get salt and pepper. I know it. Psh.
Yeah.
I am a fan of chemistry when it comes to my hair. And wigs and all the things. Oh, Gord had gray streaks. Yeah, now you can't call them streaks anymore. I say let's all blame 2020. It's
Uh-huh.
2020's fault.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, that's when I got most of the gray hairs. This is in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Noodles is going more white than salt and pepper. Used to have more colors than, or Noodles in the Discord chat says, I had all colors Rodman had before Rodman had them. Using Manic Panic. That was the one.
Oh yeah, that was the go-to.
Yep.
Yeah.
I dyed my hair what I thought was going to be red. It was called Poppy Red. And it ended up being bright pink.
Mhm.
So
Well,
I had
yeah, we can see
bright
it. And
pink
what's amazing
hair.
is that it never changed back. It was
It
permanent
never
hair
went
dye.
back again. Never, ever, ever. All right.
I did a red. I did red streaks once,
Ooh.
very 90s. Like big fat streaks of
I
red,
love
you
it.
know. And
The
they
chunky.
yeah, chunky streaks, and they ended up being orange.
You're like, that's not what I
wanted.
want.
Yeah.
That's not the one. Yeah. Manic Panic is fun, but you have to be willing to let it go if it's not what you wanted. Because it will end up being not what you wanted most of the time. But it can be very fun. Eric Knapp says he's been going gray since the Falkland Island War. So there's
Yes.
no blaming 2020
Yes,
for that
yes.
one.
Yes, yes.
Yes, I'm going to be intellectual. There it goes. Are we done for the evening?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to bed.
Yeah.
Sadie woke me up at 3:30. So
Oh, wait, doesn't she know that it's not Hawaii?
she wasn't even there.
No.
No.
Oh, I bet
she's
Sadie was so happy
intimidating.
to see you. Is she like bored of you now?
Yeah.
She's like, you went back 3 days.
It was like 2 days, and then that was it. Yeah.
Ugh.
That's generally how it goes.
I think you picked the perfect place to go for a honeymoon. I've been to Hawaii exactly once, and actually, I don't think I've ever been angrier.
Oh, no.
Than the first day or two I was in Kauai, because it was just like, how come nobody told me that there's an actual paradise
Yes.
on Earth? Like,
Kauai is
there's
amazing.
postcards and stuff, and you're like, somebody airbrushed or fixed the picture up.
No,
Kauai
that's Jurassic Park is Kauai.
It's Jurassic Park. It was like, this is actual. There's an actual paradise on the planet, like what you would picture with, like, you have white sandy beaches. The outside weather is fine day and night. Occasionally rains, but it's a warm rain. There's like a foggy mist over that little mountain over there, and like
The
people are
tropical
friendly.
jungle. Like
Everything's
the Kanapali
tropical.
coast is like, wow,
Yeah.
these crazy cliffs and so
Yeah.
beautiful.
One
Yes.
side there's a little like, it's just the whole thing is gorgeous, and I was like so mad. I'm like really nobody was like, you have to go to Hawaii and see paradise because it actually exists.
Yeah. See, we were waffling between Maui and Kauai, and the reason we didn't pick it in the end, Kauai, is the rental car issue. It was like, when I go to Kauai, I need a rental car because of all these paradise spaces
To get to.
and
you
otherwise
need to be able to get around.
it's not developed enough that there would be a bunch of lifts that you could just call, right? So
Right.
it'd be a lot harder to get around if you didn't have a car. So
Kauai is an interesting island too, because it's got a road that goes almost all the way around.
Yeah.
It's like a big U shape.
Yeah.
Is the road, and so you can't just go around. You have to like sometimes go quite a distance to get around, all the way around the island. Not that far. Nothing's that far. But one thing that did a couple of things. Actually, it has this. What's the beach from Puff the Magic Dragon song?
Oh.
it's like Neville. So
Anyway, supposedly it was written on this one beach that's in Kauai.
Oh, okay.
And it's an amazing
Honolulu
beach.
Bay. It was Honolulu.
Honolulu Bay.
Honolulu
Honolulu
Bay.
Bay, you can walk out and the water will be like wet from waist to chest high. And you can go out hundreds of feet. There's this beautiful, there's surfers way out there and people are frolicking in the water. And then there's this creek that's coming from inland. And so you can kind of sit in where the fresh water goes out into the ocean, and there's a temperature difference. It's kind of a fun, neat place to hang out. First night, or first couple of days, also when I'm mad that nobody told me about paradise, hanging out, walking way out into this, swimming around, playing around, and then go have the sushi at the bar, and then there's this guy talking at the other end of the bar. He's like, yeah, and I forgot to mention, it rained, the warm rain. And I've got the warm rain and the creek water coming in the thing. I'm like right there. And there's this guy talking. He's like, yeah, it stays like this. I never go out in the Honolulu. Yeah. Because the rain, it brings all the sharks. I'm like, what is that about the sharks and the rain? Why would sharks be attracted to rain to a specific, like, it didn't make sense. It rains. And so now the sharks come to this specific beach because of the rain? That doesn't make sense. He's like, it's because there's a freshwater creek that goes out into that bay. I was like, yeah, I was hanging out there earlier today. He's like, oh, okay. Well, the rain happens all inland. There's a lot of chickens. There's a lot of little farms and chickens and stuff. And so a lot of that waste from the chicken farms and some dead chickens and old chickens, and occasionally a chicken just gets washed out. It all sort of goes out that creek, and it's like chum to the sharks. They come right up to the creek, attracted by the smell of the blood of all the dead chickens and all this stuff. So I'm like, oh
my God,
that's right where I was. So the whole rest of the trip, I didn't go in the water. because you told the story about being in that bay and a tiger shark coming up and grabbing them. And he said the thing that's scary about those is that bay you can't see very well. And tiger shark doesn't see very well, so it bumps into you and it's going to take
bumps you first. Yeah.
It's going to try to drag you out because it doesn't know you're not prey because it can't see you any better than you can see it. It just finds you. It's going to bite. Didn't go into the water the whole rest of the trip. I think I was there like another week.
Oh boy.
Justin's
so
Hawaiian vacation is a horror movie. Don't go in the water.
That's
Don't
so
go in
sad.
the water, people.
Stop. So, okay.
However, on that island, giant, lush, amazing avocados grow everywhere. Like you can just walk out your thing and like,
we
oh,
call
here's
it
an
the
avocado.
garden island
It
for a
is.
reason.
And I like where you can grow avocados in your yard, just like they're like you put a hedge or like you got a grass lawn or something anywhere else where you can just grow stuff. They got avocados growing all over there and like that.
Mango.
Oh, I wouldn't even need to buy food. I just live off of avocados all the time. I'd have to buy some sour cream maybe to go with it, but that's about it.
Blair needs to tell you something about tiger sharks.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at Hawaii's website and they have a shark incident report. And the last one on Kauai. So there was one in February of 2021, but there was
it
no
Hanalei
injury.
Bay?
No, Waiokapua Bay.
Okay. Good.
And this was no injury to the human. The shark bit the nose of the surfboard.
Mm-hmm.
The next one at Kauai was June of 2020. Cape Kaha, Davidson's Beach. 100 yards from shore. So also that other one was 100 yards from shore. There's no way you're swimming that far out. So these are both surfing injuries.
Well, on Hanalei Bay, you could pretty much get out almost that far walking. You wouldn't even need to be swimming.
Yards?
It's a very weird. Yeah. It's a
300
very
feet?
weird bay. Yeah, it's a very weird bay because you can walk way out far. Now there's a breaking surf much further out. Like a couple of football fields where the surfers are. You almost can't see them too well from the shore. But that bay is like very bizarrely situated that it stays like the California coast. You walk out 20 feet and then you drop off a cliff, right? We're used to that in California. This bay is situated very differently.
So here's the first actual injury from a tiger shark in Kauai that I found is February of 2019. This is Hanalei Bay. It's 320 yards from shore, so like practically 1,000 feet.
So that's out where the surfers are.
And this was puncture wounds to left leg.
Yeah, that's out by where the surfers are out there. And I did feel like they were a first line of defense. Like if sharks are going to come in, they got plenty to choose from. But the way the guy described it was that they weren't actually looking for humans. So it's the fact that when you get into the bay where the people can walk around, the visibility is bad because it's the tide's still coming in and out and it's still churning up and that's
still
why the
rare.
attack. He thought at least the attack was more. I don't know. That's much more recently than when I was there. Here's the thing about if you're afraid of sharks like I am, one of the quickest remedies to it is not going into the ocean.
It's a quick way to deal with it.
Yeah. And that's what I chose. I chose not to go into the water anymore.
Yeah, I mean, just
Don't
like
go in the water.
I don't know. You're so much less likely to be bit by a shark than a million other things.
Yeah.
Yep.
But if you stay out of the water, you have no chance. But it wasn't just that, the chances of the shark, It was that this guy was telegraphing, specifically he avoids that beach when it rains because the chicken farms chum in the sharks through that freshwater tributary.
That in itself is a very specific. That's a very specific.
Very specific.
period
I
of
don't
time.
think tiger
Yeah,
sharks
local
can handle
knowledge,
fresh
yeah.
water.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
that they can
fresh, it's
handle.
still-
It's
it's
not that
just-
they have to go up the creek at all.
Oh, okay.
It's that the chicken remnants from all the chicken farms up in the hills get washed out into that bay.
Yeah.
And that's what brings the sharks in.
Right. I'm just saying if there's any freshwater current that's hitting the water in that bay, they're
Okay.
nowhere near it because
All right,
they
we're gonna
can't
have to go
tolerate
back.
salt water.
We're gonna have to go back a decade and a half, find that bar, go back and you can have this
We
discussion with the
need
guy
to find the local knowledge.
with the shark bite marks in his leg.
That's what I'm saying is if there's so to your exact point, I just really
You
quickly
can argue with him all you want.
the way estuaries work, right? When it rains,
define an estuary.
it's
the
a bay.
water.
It's
It's
where
an
Okay,
area
fair.
where
and
fresh water is
mix.
coming into the salt water. Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's not a river though. It's just a creek.
So when the river or creek or
river.
whatever is providing fresh water to the bay, that's what makes it a bay, right? When that
No. This is okay. It's called a bay. You're right though. You're right. It's much more of an inlet. It's just the way it's situated. It's not being filled by fresh water to any degree. There's this tiny creek pouring into the thing. It's really kind of an inlet in like a crescent shape. But it's not like the bay, like your bay area, that's being fed by a bunch of rivers combining and then pouring fresh water into it. It's a very different scenario.
I mean, Honolulu Bay, it's ocean still, really.
It's still all
it
ocean.
is, except if you look at the topographical map, you can see it looks like there's some water mixing and lots of turbid water along the edges. So whatever. Point being, I take issue with this theory because if the whole point is that fresh water is getting fed into this area and pulling nutrients with it, anything that's in that freshwater current is going to repel a shark. So I'm just saying there's some conflicting information here.
Here's what we do. We go out, we find some sharks. We get some fresh water, and we mix in a bunch of chicken guts. And we pour that into the water along with you snorkeling. Now, if your theory is correct, the sharks will move away from you. If my theory is correct, I'm sorry, Blair. I don't know.
There it is.
Anyway, but
Well, the other problem
and
is that sharks don't want to eat people. So it's
yeah, well, but that was the whole point he was making too, is the visibility of that bay. And they get close because they get the chum coming out. They come close, but they can't see anything because the way that bay turns the water over and the visibility underwater is terrible. And then they bump into one of the hundreds of humans that are wandering around out there. But you know what? You're probably completely right. But it didn't matter. It was enough to affect my thinking that I will never go in an ocean again.
Now it's not just during the trip right after the rains when the chickens are chumming. It's just the
never.
ocean ever.
It's just never. There's no. I'm a mammal. I'm a land mammal to be more precise, because there are some ocean mammals, but I'm not an ocean-going creature. I should stay out of the ocean. That's my theory.
Oh, Honolulu Bay is a famous place for because of its calm spots for children to play in the surf.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I said, you can really walk way
It was
out
voted best beach in America multiple times.
Yep.
there. Okay, and see, there's that tributary coming out there.
Yeah, this
So
tributary
that must be
here,
where
I
I was hanging
remember
out.
going and watching some people that it was a spot where the water was coming out fast enough, and at these interesting dwells, they'd pushed sand up so that they were surfing in like stationary waves
Oh, neat.
right here. Yeah. I remember something like
I
that.
kind of remember. Okay, so actually, I
don't
think
it was
I
here.
think
I'm
the
pretty
one
sure
actually,
it was
but
there.
But go back down, pull that map back down. I actually think the lower one of those lower ones Okay, there's the. Oh gosh, I remember there being a little wharf thing people could walk out, but I think it was one of those. Actually,
It's probably
was
that
around.
beach park. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that might have been one of those that was. Anyway,
So I'm also finding out that Hanalei Bay is in fact a true estuary.
oh.
So there you
Dun
go.
dun dun.
It has a mean discharge of 216 cubic feet per second. It's the
there's
second
a lot of
largest
water
river in
that-
the state.
Wow. There's a lot of water that gets onto Kauai.
Yeah. So it's also possible the way, the island topography is that it's not very wide, but is very deep of a river.
Yeah.
So that's also possible.
It's also kind of it's got some. There's some actual mountains in there, like the mountains from Lost. Remember they would show the misty tropical jungle mountains in the distance of Lost. That was all Kauai. If anybody remembers that show that somebody wrote a pilot for, and then immediately had to keep making up stuff.
Yeah, and
Every
ruined
week.
in the last season. Yeah, I'm aware.
Well, they had no arc
aware.
in the first place. We got a bunch of people crashed and they're stuck on an island, and somebody picked them up, and they were like, "Oh gosh, now we have to write a whole 400 hours of show to go with this 2 hour."
Well, I think they only took it a season at a time, which was part of the problem.
Yeah, there was never an exit strategy. And then one day they're just like, "Okay, it's over. We're done. Bye."
Don't worry about it. It's purgatory. You know how I said it wasn't purgatory? Turns out it's
Now
purgatory.
it is. Okay,
Sorry.
bag of money. We got
Out.
paid. Hope you enjoyed the ride. Gone.
It was
I
hot.
did.
in
I
that
did
beach.
enjoy the siloed '70s science quarantine
Oh,
facilities.
yeah.
Those were pretty rad. Those were pretty awesome. I want one of those.
All right, everyone.
All right, say goodnight, Blair.
Good night, Blair. Say good night, Justin.
Good night, Justin. Good night, Kiki.
Good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of This Week in Science. TWIS-o-ween! The sound of the slurping at the bottom of the tiki cup. Oh, show's over. We'll see you again next week, everyone. Oh, I may be back online this Friday with an ecologist talking about the I'm forgetting the name of the top
Science thing.
ecosystem. It's a science thing, yes, on our channel, talking with the
Ecosystem.
with the researcher that we've talked to before.
Food web.
Yeah, about that ecosystem that's right at the top of the ocean.
Oh, the Newstrom.
The
Newstrom. Yes,
Newstrom.
thank you. Oh, you
Yes.
beat me to it. Yes.
Yes, there is a hashtag Save the Seas that
Yeah.
Mr. Beast and Mark Rober have tried to get going to try and raise money for ocean conservation and cleanup. And so we're going to be talking about...
However, the cleanup could destroy the Newstrom, so that's a problem.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that. Hashtag Save the Seas. We're going to be talking about...
Leave the plastic. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the ecology and the plastic and all that kind of stuff and
Nice.
having a little chat. But yeah, so 6:00 p.m. Pacific time on Friday,
That's fun.
if anyone's interested in joining. But until then, and also until next
I
week.
can make it. I can totally make it. How about you,
Awesome.
Blair?
No, she says no.
Nope. I will
no.
be
It's my
finishing up
weekend.
at an event. No, actually, I'll be working because
She's-
it's Friday,
she's-
right?
She's getting married again.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not. No, I'm working though.
Wait.
I am.
She's
I
like,
will
I
be
like
in
this honeymoon situation
in
so much.
full
I'm going to keep
Parks
getting married.
uniform on Friday at an event. So
Okay. Well, have a great event.
thanks.
And everyone, if we don't see you this Friday, we'll see you next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific time for more This Week in Science. Take care. Goodbye.